We live in the most connected era in human history, yet many people feel more distracted, exhausted, and overwhelmed than ever before. Every day begins with good intentions. You promise yourself, this will be the day you finally get ahead. You'll be more focused, more productive, more disciplined. You'll finish the important tasks, exercise, eat better, and maybe even get to bed early. But by the end of the day, reality feels very different. Your attention has been pulled in 100 directions. Notifications stole your focus. Endless tasks filled your schedule. Urgent demands replaced meaningful priorities. And somehow, despite being busy from morning to night, you're left with the quiet, uncomfortable feeling that the things that truly matter didn't move forward. You're tired, but not fulfilled. Busy, but not progressing. This is the silent struggle of modern life. We were never taught how to manage constant distraction. We were never trained to protect our energy. We were never shown how to build a lifestyle that supports consistent high performance without burning out. Instead, most of us were given a dangerous idea. Work harder, push more, sleep less, do more. And when that strategy fails, we blame ourselves. We think we lack discipline. We think we lack motivation. We think we lack talent. But the truth is far more empowering and far more hopeful. You don't have a motivation problem. You don't have a discipline problem. You have an energy and focus problem. And the moment you understand this, everything begins to change. Because success, happiness, creativity, productivity, and personal growth all share the same hidden foundation. Your ability to direct your attention and manage your energy. Focus and energy are the real currencies of modern life. They determine how well you think, how deeply you work, how meaningfully you connect, how quickly you grow, and how fully you experience your life. Without focus, time disappears. Without energy, opportunities fade. Without clarity, potential remains locked away. But when you learn to master your focus and energy, something extraordinary happens. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. High performance stops feeling like a rare talent reserved for elite athletes, CEOs, or extraordinary individuals. Instead, it becomes a lifestyle, a set of habits, a way of thinking, a way of living. High performance is not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things with clarity, intention, and consistency. It's about showing up as your best self. Not once in a while, not when motivation strikes, but every single day. Imagine waking up with mental clarity instead of mental fog. Imagine finishing your most important work before the day runs away from you. Imagine having energy left in the evening to enjoy your life, your family, your passions. Imagine feeling calm, focused, and in control, rather than rushed, scattered, and overwhelmed. This is the art of high-performance living, and it is a skill anyone can learn. In this audiobook, you will discover how to reclaim your attention in a world designed to steal it. You will learn how to protect and multiply your energy instead of constantly draining it. You will build habits that make progress inevitable, and you will develop the mindset needed to stay consistent even when life becomes challenging. You will learn why most productivity advice fails and what actually works in the real world. You will learn how small daily rituals shape massive long-term outcomes. You will learn how to balance ambition with recovery so that success becomes sustainable, not exhausting. You will learn how to stop waiting for motivation and start relying on systems. You will learn how to design a life where progress becomes natural. This is not about becoming perfect. This is about becoming intentional. This is about taking control of your time, your energy, and your attention. The three forces that shape the direction of your life. Because at the end of the day, Your life is not defined by your goals. It is defined by what you consistently do. And what you consistently do is shaped by how well you manage your focus and your energy. This audiobook is your guide to doing exactly that. It is your wake-up call, your roadmap, and your companion on the journey toward a more focused, energized, and intentional life. You are not here to survive your days. You are here to design them. And your high-performance life begins now. Welcome to Limitless Listening. This channel is dedicated to bringing you powerful lessons from the world of motivation, productivity, and personal growth through immersive audiobook experiences. Here, you can slow down, breathe, and step into ideas that help you grow into your best self. Whether you're commuting, relaxing, exercising, or winding down for the day, this space is designed to help you learn, reflect, and transform your mindset. Our mission is simple: to help you unlock your potential and build a life driven by purpose, clarity, and consistent growth. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and allow yourself to fully immerse in today's audiobook. Your journey toward a high-performance life starts right now. Chapter 1: The High-Performance Wake-Up Call. There comes a moment in many people's lives when they pause, look around, and quietly ask themselves a question they have been avoiding for far too long. Why am I always busy, yet still feel like I'm falling behind? It is not a dramatic question. It does not arrive with fireworks or warning sirens. It usually arrives in the middle of ordinary life. It comes while answering one more message late at night. It comes while rushing through breakfast. It comes in traffic, in meetings, in the silence after a long day that felt full but somehow empty. It comes when the body is tired, the mind is scattered, and the heart knows something is wrong. This is the high-performance wake-up call. For many people, life has become a constant movement without meaningful progress. Days are packed, calendars are full, notifications never stop. There is always something to do, something to answer, somewhere to be, someone who needs attention. From the outside, it may even look impressive. A busy life often earns praise. People admire the one who is always working, always moving, always handling 10 things at once. But busyness and effectiveness are not the same thing. Motion is not mastery. Activity is not achievement. Exhaustion is not excellence. That is where the confusion begins. Modern life has created a dangerous illusion. It has convinced many people that being constantly occupied means they are living productively. It has taught them to measure their worth by how much they can juggle, how fast they can respond, and how little rest they allow themselves. But when busyness becomes a lifestyle, it often hides a deeper truth. Many people are not truly focused, not truly present, and not truly performing at their highest level. They are simply surviving an endless stream of demands. And survival is not the same as high performance. High performance is not about doing more and more until your mind burns out and your spirit goes numb. It is not about being available every second of the day. It is not about proudly saying, "I'm so busy," as if that sentence alone proves your value. True high performance is about directing your energy toward what matters most. It is about being sharp, clear, intentional, and strong. It is about producing real results without losing yourself in the process. It is about learning how to protect your attention in a world designed to steal it. That is why this wake-up call matters. Most people do not need more pressure. They need more clarity. They do not need more hours in the day. They need a better relationship with the hours they already have. They do not need to become machines. They need to become more awake, more aware, more honest about where their energy is going and why they feel so drained, even when they are trying so hard. Look closely at the average day in modern life. A person wakes up, and before their feet touch the ground, their mind is already under attack. Messages, alerts, headlines, emails, social feeds, reminders, bad news, other people's needs, unfinished tasks from yesterday, new pressure for today. The mind does not get a chance to arrive in the day with calm strength. It is thrown into reaction mode almost immediately. Before any real intention is set, attention has already been hijacked. This is how focus gets broken. The tragedy is that many people have become so used to mental fragmentation that they now think it is normal. They think it is normal to start one task, get distracted, open 3 more tabs, check the phone, forget the original purpose, rush to another task, and end the day wondering where all the time went. They think it is normal to feel physically present but mentally absent. They think it is normal to be busy from morning to night and still not touch what truly matters. But it is not normal. It is common, and common is not always healthy. A distracted life is expensive. It costs you your peace. It costs you your creativity. It costs you your momentum. It costs you the deep satisfaction that comes from fully engaging with meaningful work. When your attention is constantly split, your power is constantly weakened. Every interruption may seem small, but over time, small interruptions create a fractured mind. And a fractured mind struggles to produce excellent results. Energy suffers too. Many people think their problem is lack of motivation. It is not always motivation. Often it is energy mismanagement. They are pouring their mental, emotional, and physical fuel into too many directions. They are carrying invisible weight all day long. Decision fatigue, digital overload, emotional stress, constant comparison, unfinished responsibilities, background anxiety. Even when they are sitting still, their nervous system is running a marathon. So by the time they try to do something important, they feel empty. This is one of the hardest truths to accept. A person can be hardworking and still deeply ineffective, not because they are lazy, not because they do not care, but because they are trying to build a powerful life with a depleted mind. And no matter how ambitious you are, you cannot perform at your best when your inner system is running on fumes. Imagine trying to drive a high-performance car with bad fuel, flat tires, and no maintenance. The car may look impressive, the engine may have great potential, but under pressure, it will fail. That is what happens to many people. Their potential is real, their dreams are real, their talent is real, but their inner condition is neglected, their focus is scattered, their energy is drained. Their habits are reactive, so instead of moving with strength, they move with strain. The world often rewards visible movement, but life rewards meaningful direction. There is a major difference between living reactively and living intentionally. Reactive living means your day is controlled by interruption, urgency, and outside noise. Intentional living means your day is guided by purpose, priorities, and conscious choices. Most people never make that shift. They remain trapped in reaction mode for years. They answer everything except the deeper question of what they actually want their life to become. And that question matters because attention is life. Where your attention goes, your days go. Where your days go, your future goes. This means every distracted hour is not just a lost hour. It is a small piece of life spent without full awareness. Every day lived in mental chaos becomes part of a larger pattern, and patterns build destiny. That is why this chapter is not merely about productivity. It is about awakening. It is about recognizing that your focus is one of the most valuable assets you have. Your energy is precious. Your presence is powerful. And if you do not learn how to protect those things, the modern world will happily consume them. The truth is simple, even if it is uncomfortable. Many people are not tired because life is impossible. They are tired because they are mentally overcommitted, emotionally overloaded, and constantly overstimulated. They are exhausted by too much noise and too little recovery. They are trying to think clearly in an environment that profits from confusion. They are trying to stay calm in a system that rewards urgency. They are trying to do meaningful work while living in a culture of non-stop distraction. No wonder so many feel stuck. But here is the good news. Awareness changes everything. The moment you see the trap, you are no longer fully trapped by it. The moment you realize that busyness is not the goal, you become free to pursue something greater. The moment you understand that being effective requires more than effort, you begin to search for alignment, clarity, and discipline. This is the beginning of a different way of living. High performance starts with honesty. You have to be honest about how you spend your time, honest about what drains you, honest about how often you give your best energy to low-value activities while postponing the work that could actually change your life, honest about how often you confuse urgency with importance, honest about how often you let the outside world decide what deserves your attention. That honesty is not meant to shame you, it is meant to free you. Because once you see clearly, you can choose differently. You can choose to stop worshipping busyness and start respecting effectiveness. You can choose to protect your mornings instead of surrendering them to noise. You can choose depth over distraction. You can choose fewer priorities with stronger commitment. You can choose rest not as weakness, but as recovery. You can choose to treat your focus like a weapon and your energy like an investment. This is what separates high performers from the constantly overwhelmed. High performers do not simply work harder, they work with greater awareness. They understand that attention is limited. They know energy must be managed. They realize that saying yes to everything means saying no to excellence. They do not let every message, mood, and interruption control their direction. They build systems that help them stay anchored in what matters. And that kind of life is available to you too. You do not need a perfect schedule. You do not need superhuman discipline overnight. You do not need to become someone else. You simply need to wake up to the cost of constant distraction. Wake up to the damage of scattered energy. Wake up to the fact that you were not created to live in endless reaction. There is more in you than survival. There is more available to you than rushing from one task to another until life feels like a blur. You were meant for a more powerful way of living. Imagine a life where your mind feels clear instead of cluttered. Imagine ending the day knowing you gave your best to what actually mattered. Imagine waking up with intention instead of anxiety. Imagine having enough inner strength to focus deeply, think clearly, and move through the world without being owned by every notification and demand. That is not a fantasy. That is the result of training yourself to live with greater purpose and control. The first step is not adding more. It is removing what weakens you. Remove the belief that being overwhelmed means you are important. Remove the habit of treating every incoming demand like an emergency. Remove the addiction to stimulation that leaves your mind unable to sit in stillness. Remove the guilt around rest. Remove the false pride in exhaustion. Remove the idea that your value comes from constant availability. Then replace those lies with truth. Your value does not rise because you are stressed. Your future does not improve because you are distracted. Your goals do not get closer because your schedule is crowded. Progress comes from clear priorities, focused action, and sustainable energy. Greatness is not built by frantic motion. It is built by consistent, intentional effort over time. That is the wake-up call many people need to hear. You do not need to be everywhere. You need to be present where it counts. You do not need to do everything. You need to do the right things well. You do not need to prove your worth through burnout. You need to build your life through wisdom. This chapter is a mirror. It invites you to see what modern life may have quietly done to your mind and habits. It asks you to notice where your focus has been leaking, where your energy has been wasted, and where your life has become too reactive to support the future you truly want. Not so you can feel defeated, but so you can rise with a new standard. Because once you know better, you can move better. The most powerful people are not always the busiest in the room. Often, they are the clearest. They are the ones who know what matters and protect it fiercely. They are the ones who can think when others panic, focus when others scatter, and recover when others keep draining themselves for appearances. They understand that effectiveness is not about chaos, it is about alignment, and you can build that alignment. Starting now, you can become more intentional with your attention, more protective of your peace, more disciplined with your decisions, more committed to living in a way that supports your highest potential instead of constantly sabotaging it. You can stop confusing movement with meaning. You can stop accepting exhaustion as normal. You can stop living as if your focus is disposable. This is your wake-up call. Not to fear modern life, but to master yourself within it. Not to run away from responsibility, but to carry it with strength and structure. Not to do less, because life is hard, but to do what matters most, with a clearer mind and a stronger spirit. Your focus can be rebuilt. Your energy can be restored. Your effectiveness can be sharpened. But it begins with this realization. Being busy is not the same as being powerful. And from this moment forward, power is the standard, because your life is too valuable to be spent in constant distraction. Your purpose is too important to be buried under endless noise, and the future you want will not be built by scattered effort. It will be built by a focused mind, a directed heart, and a person brave enough to wake up and live on purpose. This is where high performance truly begins. Chapter 2. Energy, your most valuable resource. There is a truth many people do not fully understand until life forces them to face it. Success is not built only on talent, it is not built only on ambition, it is not even built only on time. Success is built on energy. You can have big dreams, strong intentions, and a long list of goals. You can have the right books, the right advice, and the right opportunities. But if your energy is low, scattered, or constantly drained, even the best plans begin to collapse under pressure. Without energy, discipline becomes harder, focus becomes weaker, patience becomes thinner, resilience becomes fragile, and slowly the life you want begins to feel heavier than it should. That is why this chapter matters so deeply. Most people are taught to manage time, but very few are taught to manage energy. They are told to wake up earlier, do more, push harder, stay busy, and keep going. They learn how to fill calendars, meet deadlines, and carry responsibilities. But almost no one sits them down and says, your greatest asset is not just your time, it is the quality of energy you bring to that time. And that changes everything. Because two people can have the same 24 hours and produce completely different results. One moves through the day with clarity, calm strength, and momentum. The other moves through the same day tired, distracted, irritated, and overwhelmed. The hours are equal, but the energy is not. And in the end, energy often determines what those hours become. This is the invisible difference between surviving and performing. When most people hear the word energy, they immediately think of physical strength. They think of sleep, food, exercise, or whether the body feels tired. That is part of it, of course. Physical energy matters. Your body is the vehicle through which you live your life. If your body is neglected, eventually your performance suffers. But energy is bigger than that. It is deeper than that. There are at least 3 forms of energy shaping your life every single day. Physical energy, mental energy, and emotional energy. Physical energy is the fuel of the body. It affects whether you feel strong or sluggish, alert or drained, ready or resistant. It is influenced by sleep, movement, nutrition, breathing, recovery, and daily habits. When physical energy is low, even simple tasks can feel difficult. The body becomes heavy, motivation drops, the mind struggles to stay sharp, and the smallest responsibilities can start to feel like mountains. Mental energy is the fuel of thought. It affects your focus, decision-making, creativity, memory, and ability to solve problems. Mental energy is what allows you to think clearly, stay present, and do deep work. When mental energy is weak, the mind becomes foggy. You read without absorbing. You work without real progress. You start things and cannot finish them. You feel busy, but the quality of your thinking begins to decline. Then there is emotional energy, the fuel of the heart. This is the part many people ignore, yet it may be the most powerful of all. Emotional energy shapes your attitude, resilience, confidence, patience, and inner stability. It determines how you respond to pressure, setbacks, disappointment, and uncertainty. You may be physically rested and mentally capable, but if you are emotionally drained, everything becomes harder. Small problems feel bigger, frustration grows faster, hope feels distant. Even success can feel empty when emotional energy is depleted. This is why energy must be understood as a whole. A person may say, "I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm trying, but I just can't seem to perform at my best." Often the answer is not a lack of potential. It is an energy problem. The body may be tired, the mind may be overloaded, the emotions may be carrying too much unprocessed weight. And when all 3 forms of energy are neglected, life begins to feel like a daily uphill battle. You cannot build a high-performance life on low-quality energy. Think about how many people are living today. Their bodies are under-rested, their minds are overstimulated, their emotions are burdened. They scroll late into the night, wake up already exhausted, rush into the day without stillness, consume endless noise, worry constantly, and call it normal. Then they wonder why they cannot focus, why they lose motivation, why they feel flat, why their goals stay unfinished. It is not always because they do not care. Sometimes it is because they have been trying to create extraordinary results from an exhausted state. Imagine a house being built on weak ground. No matter how beautiful the design is, no matter how expensive the materials are, if the foundation is unstable, cracks will eventually appear. Energy is the foundation of human performance. It is what supports consistency. It is what carries vision into execution. It is what turns intention into action again and again and again. Without energy, success becomes a struggle of force. With energy, success becomes more sustainable, more powerful, and more aligned. This is why you must stop thinking of energy as something casual. It is not a small thing. It is not optional. It is not something to care about only when you finally burn out. It is your most valuable daily resource. It affects how you think, how you work, how you love, how you lead, how you recover, and how you show up for your future. Your life rises or falls with the quality of your energy. Physical energy is often where the rebuilding begins. When the body is consistently tired, everything else becomes harder to repair. Sleep is not laziness, it is restoration. Movement is not punishment, it is activation. Food is not just pleasure or convenience, it is information for your body. Recovery is not weakness, it is preparation. Many people treat their body like a machine they can endlessly push, but the body keeps score. It remembers the late nights. It remembers the neglect. It remembers the poor habits repeated for months and years. Eventually, it starts sending messages. Fatigue, brain fog, irritability, low motivation, sluggishness, lack of endurance. And yet many ignore these signs until the body stops cooperating. But your body is not your enemy, it is your partner. And when you care for it, it serves you with strength. There is something powerful that happens when you begin respecting your physical energy. You start realizing that simple things are not small things. A good night's sleep can change your mindset. A walk can reset your focus. Better hydration can improve your clarity. Eating with intention can stabilize your mood. Stretching, breathing, sunlight, and rest can all restore power that stress has stolen. The body responds to what you repeatedly do. So if you repeatedly honor it, it begins to support you at a higher level. Then comes mental energy. And this is where many high achievers quietly struggle. They may look productive from the outside, but their minds are constantly tired. Too many decisions, too many tabs open, too many unfinished tasks, too much information, too many interruptions, too little silence. Mental energy leaks in more places than most people realize. Every distraction costs something. Every unnecessary decision drains something. Every time you switch between tasks, your mind loses a little momentum. Every time you consume noise without purpose, you weaken your ability to think deeply. The modern world is full of tools that promise efficiency, yet many of them are quietly training people to think in fragments instead of depth, and depth is where power lives. A distracted mind cannot sustain excellence for long. It may produce activity, but it will struggle to produce mastery. That is why protecting mental energy is one of the great disciplines of modern life. You must learn to create space, space to think, space to focus, space to do one important thing well instead of 10 things poorly. Mental strength is not just about intelligence, it is about preservation. It is about refusing to let your attention be consumed by everything. It is about learning that not every thought deserves your focus, not every message deserves an instant response, and not every problem deserves to live rent-free in your head. A clear mind is a competitive advantage. And then there is emotional energy. the silent engine behind so much of life. This is the energy that determines whether you can remain steady under pressure, whether you can keep going after disappointment, whether you can speak with patience when life feels frustrating, whether you can maintain self-belief when results are slow. Emotional energy shapes the entire tone of your life. Many people are more emotionally tired than they realize. They carry stress from work, tension from relationships, fear about the future, regret about the past, and pressure to keep appearing strong. They smile when needed, perform when required, and keep moving, but inside they are heavy. Their spirit is tired, their hope is low, their emotional reserves are nearly empty. And when emotional energy is low, life loses color. It becomes harder to dream boldly, harder to stay optimistic, harder to forgive, harder to trust the process, harder to bring warmth into your work and your relationships. That is why emotional recovery is not something soft or secondary. It is essential. It matters because your inner world shapes your outer results. You cannot constantly pour from an empty emotional cup and expect to remain powerful. Sometimes emotional energy is restored through rest, sometimes through honest reflection, sometimes through prayer, sometimes through meaningful conversation, sometimes through setting boundaries, sometimes through releasing what was never yours to carry, sometimes through gratitude, sometimes through silence. But it must be restored, because success is not just about what you can accomplish, it is also about what kind of person you become while pursuing it. If your success costs all your peace, all your joy, all your emotional stability, then something has gone wrong. Real success does not demand self-destruction. Real success is built with strength that can last. This means you must become a guardian of your energy. Protect what weakens you. Notice what lifts you. Pay attention to what drains you repeatedly. Some environments drain energy. Some people drain energy. Some habits drain energy. Some forms of entertainment drain energy. Some thoughts drain energy. Some patterns of worry, comparison, resentment, and overthinking keep people exhausted even when they are physically resting. Not everything that fills your schedule deserves your life force. This is one of the great maturity shifts. You stop asking only, "Do I have time for this?" and begin asking, "Do I have energy for this? And if I give my energy to this, what will it leave me with afterward?" That question changes how you live. You start seeing that saying yes to everything is expensive. You start seeing that emotional drama has a cost. You start seeing that digital overload steals more than minutes. It steals attention, mood, and peace. You start understanding that every day is an energy investment, and like any investment, where you place it determines what grows. If you invest your best energy in distraction, stress, and reaction, your life will feel scattered. If you invest your best energy in health, focus, purpose, and meaningful action, your life will begin to feel stronger. This does not mean every day will feel perfect. It will not. Some days will be heavy. Some seasons will test you. Some mornings you will wake up tired. Some nights you will feel emotionally stretched. You are human. The goal is not to feel superhuman all the time. The goal is to become intentional enough that your energy is no longer being wasted without awareness. That is the shift. You begin to stop living by accident. You begin to stop draining yourself for things that do not matter. You begin to stop treating your inner resources as unlimited. You begin to build a life that respects the reality that energy is precious. And once you respect it, your standards change. You start choosing sleep over mindless late-night habits. You start choosing focus over constant switching. You start choosing meaningful recovery over guilt. You start choosing peace over unnecessary chaos. You start choosing aligned effort over forced busyness. These choices may look small from the outside, but they create massive change over time. Because success is not only built in breakthrough moments, it is built in repeated energy decisions. It is built when you choose to care for the body that carries your purpose. It is built when you protect the mind that shapes your future. It is built when you restore the heart that gives meaning to your work. This is how true power is built from the inside out. The world often celebrates people only when the results become visible. It praises the win, the promotion, the achievement, the recognition. But behind every sustainable success story is a hidden pattern of energy stewardship. Someone learned to manage themselves. Someone learned to recover well. Someone learned to focus deeply. Someone learned to guard their emotional world. Someone learned that greatness is not only about pushing harder, but also about sustaining wisely. That lesson can become yours too. You do not need to wait until you are burned out to begin caring about your energy. You do not need a breakdown before you rebuild your habits. You do not need to reach the edge before you finally decide to respect your limits and strengthen your foundation. You can start now. Start by noticing. Notice what fuels you. Notice what empties you. Notice when your body feels alive. Notice when your mind feels clear. Notice when your emotions feel steady. Notice when you feel most powerful, and notice what helped create that state. Then begin building around those discoveries. Your future does not only depend on how badly you want success. It depends on the energy you bring to the process. It depends on whether you can show up consistently with strength, clarity, and emotional steadiness. It depends on whether you treat yourself like a high-value asset or like something disposable. You are not disposable. Your energy is not disposable. Your life force is not disposable. It is sacred. It is strategic. It is the unseen power behind everything you want to build. So as you move forward, remember this. Your success will not be determined only by how much you do. It will be shaped by how well you manage the source from which all doing comes. Protect your body. Guard your mind. Restore your heart. Because energy is not a side issue in the journey of greatness. It is the foundation beneath the whole journey. And when your energy is strong, aligned, and renewed, you do not just work better. You live better. You lead better. You endure better. You endure better. You dream better. You become better. That is the power of energy. That is why it is your most valuable resource. And that is why learning to honor it may become one of the most important decisions of your life. Chapter 3: The Science of Deep Focus. There is a quiet kind of power that the modern world rarely teaches, yet almost every extraordinary result in life is built upon it. It is not loud. It does not draw attention to itself. It does not look dramatic from the outside, but it changes everything. That power is deep focus. In a distracted world, the ability to focus deeply has become one of the rarest and most valuable human skills. And because it is rare, it is powerful. Because it is powerful, it creates separation. It separates those who stay busy from those who make real progress. It separates those who constantly react from those who intentionally create. It separates those who touch many things lightly from those who build something meaningful with depth, care, and excellence. Most people do not lack talent. They lack concentration. They lack the ability to stay with one important thing long enough for that thing to become great. That is the real challenge. The modern world is full of interruption. Phones vibrate, messages arrive, tabs remain open, videos autoplay, opinions flood the screen. Attention is constantly being pulled in every direction. Most people have become so used to distraction that they no longer see it as a threat. They see it as normal. But normal does not always mean healthy, and common does not always mean wise. A distracted mind may survive, but it rarely creates at its highest level. Deep focus is more than just paying attention. It is the ability to direct your full mental energy toward what matters and remain there long enough to do work of substance. It is the discipline of staying present when the mind wants to wander. It is the refusal to be stolen by every noise, urge, or interruption. It is the training of your brain to move beyond shallow effort and enter a place where thinking becomes sharper, creativity becomes stronger, and work becomes more meaningful. This is where great writing is born. Great ideas are shaped. Important decisions are made. Mastery is built, not in frantic multitasking, not in constant interruption, but in focused depth. Yet many people have lost their relationship with depth. They sit down to work, but their mind is already scattered. They begin a task, then check a notification. They return to the task, then remember another responsibility. They open one tab, then another, then another. Their body is in one place, but their attention is everywhere. After hours of activity, they feel tired, but the results are thin. The day felt full, yet little of real value was completed. This is one of the great frustrations of modern life. People are giving away their attention in fragments, and then wondering why they feel weak, behind, or mentally exhausted. The answer is simple. Fragmented attention creates fragmented output. A divided mind struggles to produce deep results. Your brain was not designed to thrive in endless interruption. Every time you switch from one task to another, there is a cost. Even if it seems small, the cost is real. The brain needs time to settle into a problem, to build momentum, to fully engage. But when that process is interrupted again and again, the mind remains on the surface. It never goes deep enough to access its best thinking. It stays busy, but not powerful, active, but not effective. That is why deep focus is not just a productivity tool. It is a form of mental strength. It is a way of reclaiming ownership over your own mind. The first truth you must understand is this: distraction is not random. It is often designed. Modern systems compete for your attention because attention is valuable. Every notification, every alert, every endless stream of content is asking for a piece of your life. And when you give that away all day long, you do not just lose time. You lose clarity. You lose momentum. You lose the ability to stay present with the work that could actually change your future. That is why deep focus begins with awareness. You must become honest about what is stealing your mind. Sometimes it is your phone. Sometimes it is social media. Sometimes it is unnecessary conversation. Sometimes it is noise. Sometimes it is overthinking. Sometimes it is anxiety. Sometimes it is the habit of checking, switching, refreshing, and reacting. Distraction is not always external. Sometimes the biggest interruption is the one happening inside your own head. A restless mind can be just as disruptive as a noisy room. That is why training for deep focus is not only about changing your environment, it is also about changing your habits, your patterns, and your relationship with discomfort. Because that is the part many people do not realize. Focus requires discomfort. Not pain, but discomfort. The discomfort of staying with one thing. The discomfort of resisting the urge for novelty. The discomfort of not checking the phone. The discomfort of silence. The discomfort of discipline. Many people are not addicted only to distraction. They are addicted to stimulation. Their brain has been trained to expect constant input, constant movement, constant change. So when it is time to sit with one meaningful task, the mind rebels. It craves something easier, quicker, lighter, more entertaining. This is why deep focus can feel hard at first. You are not just trying to work. You are retraining a brain that has been conditioned for interruption. And that retraining takes intention. The beautiful truth is that your brain can change. It can be trained. It can become stronger. The ability to focus is not a gift given only to a lucky few. It is a skill, and like any skill, it grows with practice. Every time you resist distraction and return to the task, you are strengthening your mind. Every time you create uninterrupted space for meaningful work, you are teaching your brain a new standard. Every time you choose depth over noise, you are becoming more powerful. This is the science and the art of deep focus. Repetition shapes the brain. What you practice, you strengthen. If you practice distraction, you become more distractible. If you practice focus, you become more focused. That means every day is training. When you wake up and immediately grab your phone, you are training reactivity. When you constantly check for updates, you are training impatience. When you let every thought pull you away from your work, you are training mental weakness. But when you sit down with intention, remove distractions, and stay with your task even when it feels difficult, you are training mental endurance. You are building the ability to hold attention, and that ability becomes a superpower. The next truth is equally important. Deep focus does not happen by accident. It must be designed. You cannot expect a distracted environment to produce a focused mind. You have to create conditions that support concentration. This means protecting your attention before you ask your mind to perform. Silence what does not need to speak. Put the phone away. Close the extra tabs. Reduce visual clutter. Create a clean working space. Decide in advance what matters most. Give your mind one clear target. Confusion weakens focus. Clarity strengthens it. When your brain knows exactly what it is supposed to do, it settles more easily into the work. But when you sit down with vague intentions, the mind wanders. It searches for easier alternatives. It drifts toward distraction because the path in front of it is unclear. This is why one of the most powerful habits in deep work is defining the mission before beginning. What am I working on? Why does it matter? What does progress look like in this session? Those simple questions give direction to your attention. Then comes another important principle. Focus grows in blocks, not in chaos. Deep work usually requires uninterrupted time, not 5 minutes between messages, not 10 distracted minutes while multitasking. Real depth needs room. It needs space long enough for your brain to move past the shallow layer of resistance and enter a more powerful state. At first, this may be 20 minutes, then 30, then 45, then an hour, then longer. The exact number matters less than the principle itself. Depth requires continuity. The brain needs enough stillness to fully engage. Many people never reach that state because they quit too early. They stop at the first wave of boredom. They break concentration the moment discomfort appears. But if they had stayed a little longer, they would have discovered something powerful on the other side of that resistance. They would have found rhythm, momentum, absorption. They would have reached the point where work stops feeling forced and starts feeling alive. This is one of the hidden rewards of focus. When you stay with meaningful work long enough, your mind begins to cooperate. You move from friction into flow. Flow is not magic. It is what often happens when attention becomes fully engaged. Time feels different. Thought becomes smoother. Action becomes more natural. You stop fighting the task and start entering it. This is where some of your best work can emerge. But flow is fragile. It does not survive constant interruption. It needs protection. This means that deep focus is not only about starting well, it is about guarding the state once you enter it. Do not break your own rhythm carelessly. Do not abandon depth for every small impulse. Do not trade meaningful progress for cheap stimulation. The deeper you go, the more valuable the work becomes. There is also a powerful emotional side to deep focus. When you concentrate fully on meaningful work, you often feel better about yourself. Why? Because focus creates integrity. It closes the gap between what you say matters and what you actually give your energy to. It produces the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you showed up with seriousness, discipline, and intention. Scattered living weakens self-respect. Focused living strengthens it. Every time you keep a promise to your attention, you build trust with yourself. You begin to see that you are not helpless before distraction. You are not owned by every urge. You are capable of directing your mind. That realization is deeply empowering, and once a person begins to feel that power, something changes. They stop admiring chaos. They stop glorifying busyness. They stop pretending multitasking is effectiveness. They begin to value depth, quality, and mental control. This shift matters because your future will be shaped by what you can consistently give your attention to. If your attention is weak, your results will often be weak. But if your attention becomes disciplined, your results begin to carry more weight, more quality, and more meaning. Deep focus is how books get written, businesses get built, skills get mastered, ideas get developed, problems get solved, lives get changed. Not overnight, but through repeated sessions of concentrated effort that compound over time. This is why you must stop treating focus like a mood and start treating it like a practice. Do not wait to feel like it. Do not wait for perfect motivation. Build the habit of entering focused work whether the mind feels fully ready or not. Action often creates clarity. Starting often creates momentum, and momentum often makes focus easier. There will be days when the mind is noisy. There will be days when distraction feels stronger. There will be days when concentration comes slowly. Keep training anyway. Because the goal is not perfection. The goal is improvement. Every focused session matters. Every distraction resisted matters. Every return to the task matters. You are not just finishing work. You are shaping a mind that can handle depth, and that mind will serve you in every area of life. It will help you listen better, think better, create better, lead better, learn better, decide better. Focus is not merely a work skill, it is a life skill. It affects the quality of your conversations, your relationships, your spiritual life, your ability to enjoy the present moment, and your capacity to build something worthwhile. A distracted person often misses life while rushing through it. A focused person experiences more of it. They bring presence where others bring half attention. They bring depth where others bring hurry. They bring intention where others bring noise. That kind of person becomes rare, and rare becomes valuable. So what does this mean for you now? It means you must make a decision, a serious one. You must decide that your mind is too valuable to remain at the mercy of distraction. You must decide that shallow living will no longer be your default. You must decide that the work you are called to do deserves more than leftover attention. You must decide that deep focus is not a luxury reserved for special people. It is a discipline you are willing to build. Start small, but start seriously. Create moments without noise. Train your brain to stay. Resist the urge to constantly switch. Protect blocks of uninterrupted time. Return again and again to what matters most. At first, it may feel difficult. That is normal. Then it will feel more natural. Then it will become part of who you are. And one day you will notice something has changed. Your mind is steadier. Your work is stronger. Your thoughts are clearer. Your days feel more meaningful. You are not just getting more done, you are becoming a different kind of person. A person who can go deep in a shallow world. A person who can create in a culture of reaction. A person who can hold attention long enough to build something real. That is the promise of deep focus. It is not just about eliminating distractions. It is about reclaiming your power. It is not just about training your brain. It is about training your life. It is not just about working harder. It is about working with depth, meaning, and mastery. So protect your attention. Honor your concentration. Train your mind with patience. And remember this, your greatest work will rarely come from scattered effort. It will come from a focused mind, a disciplined heart, and a person willing to stay with what matters long enough for greatness to grow. That is the science of deep focus. And that is how meaningful work begins. Chapter 4. Designing Powerful Daily Habits. There is a reason some people seem to move through life with consistency, clarity, and steady progress, while others keep starting over again and again. It is not always because they are more talented. It is not always because they are more motivated. And it is certainly not because they never struggle. Very often, the difference comes down to something far less dramatic, but far more powerful. Daily habits. Success is rarely created in one grand moment. It is usually built in quiet repetition. It is built in what you do when nobody is watching. It is built in the small actions you repeat when your mood is high and when your mood is low. It is built in the routines that shape your mornings, guide your afternoons, and protect your evenings. It is built in the invisible structure of everyday life. That is why habits matter so much. Many people live as if progress depends on inspiration. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel motivated. They wait for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, the perfect burst of energy. But a life built only on motivation is a life built on unstable ground. Motivation rises and falls. Emotions shift. Life gets busy. Stress appears. Unexpected problems show up. And if your progress depends only on how you feel, your consistency will always be fragile. Habits change that. A habit is a decision made once and repeated often. It is a behavior that becomes easier because it no longer needs to be debated every day. It saves mental energy. It creates rhythm. It reduces friction, and over time, it becomes part of your identity. What begins as effort becomes routine. What begins as discipline becomes natural. What begins as something you force slowly becomes something you simply do. That is where the real power lives. Because when success becomes habitual, it stops depending on constant inner battles. You no longer need to ask yourself every morning whether you will move your body, protect your focus, work on your goals, or manage your energy with intention. The routine carries you. The structure supports you. The habit does some of the heavy lifting that motivation cannot be trusted to do. This is why powerful daily habits are not small things. They are systems for becoming. Every habit is casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. Every repeated action is shaping your future in quiet ways. A person does not become confident in a single afternoon. They build confidence by repeatedly doing what they said they would do. A person does not become disciplined because they admire discipline. They become disciplined by practicing it in ordinary moments. A person does not create a powerful life through random bursts of effort. They create it through rhythms that continue even when life feels imperfect. This means your daily routine is not just a schedule, it is a blueprint for your future self. Look closely at your habits, and you will often see the story of your life unfolding. If your days are full of distraction, delay, inconsistency, and mental clutter, your future will likely reflect those patterns. But if your days are built around clarity, focus, health, and intentional action, your future begins to reflect strength, direction, and momentum. Your habits are not just things you do, they are forces that shape what your life becomes. One of the greatest gifts of a strong routine is that it removes decision fatigue. Every day, your mind makes thousands of choices. Some are small, some are important. What to wear, when to answer messages, what to eat, whether to exercise, what task to start first, whether to keep working or get distracted, whether to push through resistance or postpone the hard thing until later. Each decision may seem minor, but taken together, they drain mental energy. This is why many people feel tired before they have done anything truly meaningful. Their mind has already been spending energy all morning on unnecessary choices. Decision fatigue is real. The more you force yourself to choose the same valuable actions again and again in the moment, the more likely you are to choose comfort instead of growth. The mind starts negotiating. It says, maybe later. It says, just this once. It says, you deserve a break. It says, tomorrow will be better. And slowly, important things get pushed aside, not because you do not care, but because your mind is exhausted from constant decision-making. Habits solve this by reducing negotiation. When a routine is clear, you do not waste energy wondering whether you will do the important thing. You already know. You move. You begin. You act. The habit creates a default pattern, And that pattern makes consistency easier. This is why the strongest people often do not rely on willpower as much as others think. They do not spend every day having heroic internal battles over basic behaviors. They build lives that make the right actions more automatic. They reduce friction. They simplify choices. They create environments and routines that support success before the day even begins. That is wisdom. Imagine waking up without a clear plan. Your phone is nearby. Messages are already waiting. The bed feels comfortable. The day feels vague. Your goals are important, but they are not scheduled. Your body needs movement, but nothing is prepared. Your mind needs focus, but your environment invites distraction. In that kind of setup, even a strong person can drift, not because they are weak, but because the system around them is weak. Now imagine something different. You wake up with a clear sequence. Your first actions are intentional. Your environment is prepared. Your priorities are already decided. The most important work has a place in your day. Your body knows when it will move. Your mind knows when it will focus. Your evening has a rhythm that protects tomorrow. Suddenly, life feels less chaotic. Not because the world became easier, but because your structure became stronger. This is the beauty of routine. It turns intention into pattern, and pattern is powerful. But let us be clear, a powerful daily habit is not about creating a rigid life that feels robotic. It is not about becoming obsessed with perfection. It is not about controlling every second of the day. It is about building enough structure that your most important values stop being left to chance. The best habits serve your life. They do not imprison it. A good routine does not make you smaller. It makes you stronger. It protects what matters. It gives shape to your potential. It creates a container for your best self to emerge more consistently. So what kind of habits truly change a life? Usually, the most powerful ones are not the most complicated. They are often simple, repeatable, and deeply aligned with the person you want to become. A habit of waking up with intention instead of immediately entering distraction. A habit of beginning the day with stillness, reflection, or prayer. A habit of moving your body consistently. A habit of working on your highest priority task before low-value noise takes over. A habit of planning the day before the day begins. A habit of protecting focused time. A habit of eating in a way that supports energy. A habit of reviewing your progress at the end of the day. A habit of shutting down the evening in a way that prepares you for tomorrow. These things may sound small, but small does not mean weak. Small, repeated daily, becomes powerful. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes people make is underestimating the power of ordinary actions. They want life-changing results, but they overlook life-shaping habits because those habits do not look exciting. They want dramatic transformation, but transformation is often hidden inside quiet repetition. Great lives are usually built through practices that look unimpressive in a single day, but become extraordinary across months and years. A single workout may not change your life. A single focused hour may not transform your career. A single night of better sleep may not solve every problem. A single day of planning may not instantly remove chaos, but repeated enough, these things change everything. That is how habits work. They compound. One small act of discipline strengthens the next. One good day makes another good day easier. One protected morning improves the tone of everything that follows. Over time, the habit creates momentum, and momentum creates identity. Eventually, you no longer say, "I'm trying to be disciplined." You begin to say, "This is how I live." That identity shift is profound, because the goal is not merely to perform good actions once in a while. The goal is to become the kind of person for whom those actions are normal. A focused person has habits that support focus. A healthy person has habits that support health. A peaceful person has habits that protect peace. A productive person has habits that reduce chaos and honor priority. So if you want a different future, Start by building daily proof of that future now. Another truth must be understood here. Habits work best when they are clear, specific, and realistic. Many people fail not because they are incapable, but because they design routines that collapse under real life. They create systems based on fantasy rather than reality. They plan perfect days instead of sustainable ones. They demand too much too quickly, then feel discouraged when they cannot maintain it. But power is not found in unrealistic intensity. It is found in repeatability. A routine should challenge you, yes, but it should also fit your actual life closely enough that you can sustain it. It is better to build a strong, simple structure you can repeat than a perfect, complicated structure you abandon after 3 days. Start where you are, but start with seriousness. Maybe your first habit is not waking at an extreme hour. Maybe it is simply waking without scrolling. Maybe your first habit is not 2 hours of deep work. Maybe it is 30 protected minutes of meaningful focus. Maybe your first habit is not changing your whole diet overnight. Maybe it is one daily choice that improves your energy. Maybe your first habit is not a perfectly planned life. Maybe it is taking 10 minutes each evening to prepare for tomorrow. Do not despise simple beginnings. Respect them. Simple habits are often the ones that last, and lasting is what creates transformation. It also helps to understand that habits are easier when the environment supports them. If you want focus, remove distractions before focus is needed. If you want to read more, place the book where it is visible and accessible. If you want to exercise, prepare the space, the clothes, or the time in advance. If you want peaceful mornings, do not let your phone become the first voice you hear each day. Environment matters because behavior often follows what is easiest in the moment. That means you should make good habits easier and bad habits harder. Make it easier to begin the right thing. Make it harder to drift into the wrong thing. This is not weakness. This is strategy. Successful people do not always have better intentions. Often, they have better systems. They know that relying on constant self-control is exhausting, so they design lives that reduce temptation, simplify action, and protect what matters before the pressure of the day arrives. That kind of design is an act of self-respect. And there is another powerful part of daily habits. They create emotional stability. When life feels uncertain, routine can become an anchor. When the outside world feels noisy, a trusted daily rhythm brings calm. When motivation is low, habit provides a path. When stress rises, routine reduces chaos. This is why powerful habits are not just practical. They are grounding. A stable routine reminds you that even if everything is not under control, something still is. You can still choose how you begin the day. You can still choose what you give your attention to first. You can still choose whether you protect your health, your focus, and your growth. These repeated choices create a sense of personal leadership, and that leadership matters deeply. Because a person who can lead themselves daily can build almost anything over time. Of course, no routine will be followed perfectly forever. Life will interrupt, travel will happen, illness may come, stressful seasons will test your structure. Some days will go off course. That does not mean the habit has failed. It means you are human. The power of routine is not perfection. It is return. Can you return after a difficult day? Can you return after losing momentum? Can you return after being inconsistent? Can you return without turning one bad day into one bad month? That ability to return is one of the greatest forms of discipline. Many people fall not because they made one mistake, but because they let one mistake define the rest of their behavior. They miss a habit and then drift into discouragement. They break rhythm and then abandon the whole system. But strong people learn something better. They learn to recover quickly. They learn not to make failure their identity. They learn to come back. That is part of building a powerful life too. Your habits are not there to make you feel guilty. They are there to guide you. They are there to protect your future from the chaos of random living. They are there to make success more automatic, more sustainable, and less dependent on emotional weather. So as you build your life, ask yourself an important question. What routines would make becoming my best self more natural? Not more dramatic, more natural. Not more exhausting, more sustainable. Not more impressive, more effective. What habits would reduce daily friction? What habits would remove unnecessary decisions? What habits would protect your energy, your attention, and your purpose? Then begin building them one by one. Build a morning that strengthens you. Build a work rhythm that sharpens you. Build an evening routine that restores you. Build simple systems that reduce chaos. Build habits that serve the life you say you want. Because every day you are rehearsing a future. The way you wake up matters. The way you begin matters. The way you direct your time matters. The way you recover matters. Daily habits are not boring details at the edge of success. They are the machinery underneath it. So stop waiting to become disciplined in some dramatic future moment. Begin now, in the ordinary shape of your day. Build routines that make wisdom easier. Build patterns that support your goals. Build a life where the best choices are not always a fight. And remember this, you do not rise to the level of your intentions alone. You rise to the level of your repeated actions. Success becomes real when it becomes daily. Progress becomes powerful when it becomes habitual. And your future begins to change the moment your routines begin to reflect the person you are determined to become. That is how success is automated. That is how decision fatigue is reduced. That is how powerful daily habits quietly transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. Chapter 5. The Morning and Evening Advantage. There is a hidden truth behind many powerful lives, and it is not always obvious from the outside. People often look at success and notice the visible parts. They see the achievement, the discipline, the momentum, the consistency, the results. But what they often do not see are the quiet rituals at the beginning and end of each day that make those results possible. The way you start your day matters. The way you end your day matters. And the life you build in between is deeply shaped by both. This is the morning and evening advantage. Most people live their days from the middle. They wake up rushed, reactive, and already behind. Then they move through the hours, trying to recover from a chaotic beginning. At night, they collapse into distraction, exhaustion, or mental noise, only to repeat the cycle again the next day. They do not realize that performance is often won or lost long before the major work begins. It is shaped in the first moments of the morning and in the final habits of the evening. Daily rituals are not small things. They are the frame around your life. A strong morning ritual helps you enter the day with intention instead of confusion. A strong evening ritual helps you leave the day with peace instead of mental clutter. One prepares you to perform, the other prepares you to recover. One creates direction, the other creates restoration. Together, they form a rhythm that supports not only your productivity, but also your mindset, your energy, your emotional stability, and your long-term growth. That is why this chapter matters so much. Many people think success is built only in major actions. They think it comes from big decisions, huge sacrifices, or dramatic breakthrough moments. But very often, success is shaped by ordinary patterns, repeated with wisdom. It is shaped by how a person wakes up. It is shaped by what they let into their mind first. It is shaped by whether they begin with clarity or chaos. It is shaped by whether they close the day with intention or simply drift into the night with no structure at all. A day is not random, it has a rhythm, and when you learn to guide that rhythm, you begin to guide your life. The morning is powerful because it sets the tone. Before the world fully enters your mind, before demands start piling up, before messages and pressure and urgency begin pulling at your attention, there is a window. In that window, you have a choice. You can begin the day from a place of strength, or you can surrender the opening moments of your mind to noise. That choice matters more than many people realize. The first part of the morning often shapes the quality of everything that follows. If the day begins in stress, reactivity, and distraction, your mind is already on defense. You are no longer leading the day, you are chasing it. But if the day begins with stillness, clarity, and intentional movement, you enter with a different presence. You are grounded, you are focused. You are more likely to make wise decisions because you started from a centered state instead of a scattered one. This is why powerful people protect their mornings. Not because they worship routines for the sake of appearance, but because they understand that the morning is mental territory. Whoever owns your first moments often influences the direction of your mind. If your first input is your phone, then outside noise speaks before your own purpose does. If your first habit is rushing, then urgency becomes the emotional tone of the day. If your first moments are cluttered, your inner world begins from a weaker position. But imagine something different. Imagine waking up and giving your mind a moment to arrive before the world begins speaking. Imagine starting with silence instead of stimulation. Imagine beginning with gratitude instead of anxiety. Imagine moving your body, breathing deeply, reflecting, praying, journaling, stretching, walking, planning, or simply sitting long enough to remember who you are and what matters today. That kind of beginning changes a person. It may not look dramatic from the outside, but inside, something powerful is happening. You are teaching your nervous system not to panic at the start of the day. You are teaching your mind that clarity comes before chaos. You are reminding yourself that your life should be led by values, not hijacked by impulse. That is not just a morning habit. That is personal leadership. The morning ritual becomes a declaration. It says, I will not begin my day as a victim of reaction. I will begin as a person of intention. This matters because mornings are not just about tasks. They are about identity. The way you begin the day says something about how you see yourself. When you rise with discipline, even in small ways, you send yourself a message. You say, my day has purpose. My attention has value. My mind is worth protecting. My life deserves structure. And over time, those messages become powerful. A strong morning does not need to be complicated. In fact, simple is often better. The purpose is not to create a performance. The purpose is to create alignment. You want your first actions to strengthen your body, settle your mind, and aim your attention toward what matters. That may mean hydration. That may mean a few minutes of prayer or reflection. That may mean exercise. That may mean reviewing your goals. That may mean planning the day before it fully starts. That may mean choosing not to check messages until you have first checked in with your own priorities. Whatever form it takes, the principle remains the same. Do not let the world define your internal state before you do. That is the morning advantage. It is not about waking up early just to feel superior. It is not about copying someone else's routine. It is about building a beginning that serves your highest self. A beginning that steadies your emotions. A beginning that prepares your energy. A beginning that helps you think clearly and move intentionally. Because when the morning is strong, the rest of the day often becomes more focused, more disciplined, and more meaningful. Now let us turn to the evening, because this is where many people quietly lose tomorrow, before tomorrow even arrives. The evening is not just the end of today, it is the foundation of the next day. The quality of your night often determines the quality of your morning, and the quality of your morning influences the quality of your performance. This means the evening is not a leftover space, it is strategic space. Yet many people treat it carelessly. They move through the night with no real closure. Their body is tired, but their mind stays overstimulated. They carry unfinished stress into bed. They scroll endlessly. They consume noise. They replay problems. They delay rest. They do not prepare for tomorrow. Then they wake up unrested, mentally crowded, and emotionally flat, wondering why the day already feels heavy before it begins. The answer often starts the night before. An intentional evening ritual helps your mind release what it no longer needs to carry. It helps the day come to a proper close. It creates recovery. It reduces mental clutter. It prepares the body for rest and the mind for renewal. Without that kind of closure, many people remain internally active long after the work has ended. Their body may be at home, but their mind is still running. And a mind that never truly powers down struggles to rise strong the next day. That is why the evening ritual matters just as much as the morning one. If the morning is about direction, the evening is about restoration. If the morning is about activation, the evening is about release. If the morning helps you enter performance, the evening helps you recover from it. And recovery is not weakness, it is preparation. There is wisdom in ending the day well. There is wisdom in slowing down on purpose. There is wisdom in stepping out of constant stimulation and allowing your inner world to settle. A peaceful evening tells your system, you do not need to stay in battle mode. You are allowed to rest now. In a world that glorifies non-stop activity, that message is deeply healing. A powerful evening ritual might include reflection. It might include gratitude. It might include reviewing what went well and what needs attention tomorrow. It might include shutting down screens earlier. It might include light reading, prayer, silence, stretching, or simply creating an atmosphere that invites peace instead of mental chaos. What matters is not the exact formula. What matters is the intentional transition. The evening ritual creates an emotional landing place. It helps you leave the weight of the day where it belongs, rather than carrying it into sleep. It helps you stop identifying with unfinished tasks and start honoring your need for renewal, because no one can perform at a high level forever without recovery. Even the strongest minds need rest. Even the most driven people need closure. And when the evening is handled with wisdom, tomorrow becomes easier to win. This is one of the great secrets of long-term success. Sustainable performance is not built only by pushing harder. It is built by cycling between effort and restoration with intelligence. The person who knows how to begin well and end well has an advantage over the person who lives every day in randomness. Ritual gives shape to effort. It prevents the day from becoming a blur. It allows the mind to recognize when it is time to rise and when it is time to release. This rhythm creates emotional stability too. When mornings and evenings become intentional, life begins to feel less chaotic. You no longer wake up wondering how you will regain control. You no longer fall asleep in a fog of unfinished thoughts. You begin to experience something that many busy people deeply need: internal order. That order becomes strength. It supports confidence. It supports resilience. It supports the belief that your days are not merely happening to you. You are learning how to shape them. That feeling matters. A person with no rituals often feels like life is always pulling them around. But a person with strong daily anchors feels more grounded. They know how they begin. They know how they reset. They know how they return to themselves. Even when the day becomes demanding, there is a deeper rhythm holding them together. This is especially important because not every day will be easy. Some mornings will feel heavy. Some evenings will come with disappointment. Some days will test your patience, your discipline, and your emotional strength. In those moments, rituals become even more valuable. They give you something solid when your feelings are unstable. They remind you that even when the outside world is unpredictable, your inner practices can remain steady. That is power. The morning and evening advantage is not really about perfection. It is about consistency. You do not need the ideal routine every day. You need a reliable one. You need a pattern you can return to, something that supports your body, your mindset, and your values, even when life is imperfect. Because the real strength of ritual is not in how impressive it looks. It is in how faithfully it serves you over time. And over time, the effects become profound. A good morning ritual helps you think more clearly. A good evening ritual helps you sleep more peacefully. A good morning ritual helps you enter the day with purpose. A good evening ritual helps you leave the day without carrying unnecessary noise. A good morning ritual improves attention. A good evening ritual improves recovery. A good morning ritual strengthens identity. A good evening ritual strengthens emotional balance. Together, they shape not only how you perform, but who you become. This is how long-term results are often built. Not through one extraordinary day, but through hundreds of ordinary days that were entered and exited with wisdom. A person does not become strong by accident. They become strong by living with repeated alignment. They begin with intention. They end with reflection. They protect the edges of the day, and in doing so, they protect the quality of the life being built inside those edges. There is also something deeply human about rituals. They help you slow down enough to feel your own life. Without them, days can become mechanical. You wake, react, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. But rituals restore consciousness. They remind you that life is not just a sequence of obligations. It is something to be lived with presence. A morning ritual says, "This day matters." An evening ritual says, "This day deserves to be closed with care." That mindset changes everything, because when you begin treating days with respect, you begin treating life with respect. And when you treat life with respect, your standards rise. You no longer give your best energy away carelessly. You no longer allow every distraction to steal your direction. You no longer end the night as if recovery is optional. You begin to live like someone who understands that greatness is built in rhythms, not random bursts. So ask yourself a simple but powerful question. What kind of morning would make me stronger? And what kind of evening would make me wiser? Not what looks impressive, not what someone else is doing. What truly serves your growth, your peace, your focus, and your future. Then build from there. Create a morning that reminds you who you are before the world tells you who to be. Create an evening that allows you to release the day and prepare for tomorrow with peace. Create rituals that support performance without destroying your spirit. Create patterns that help your life feel intentional, grounded, and strong. Because every day is shaped twice. First by how it begins, then by how it ends. And when both are handled with purpose, the middle becomes stronger too. This is the morning and evening advantage. It is quiet but powerful. It is simple but transformational. It does not depend on dramatic talent or sudden breakthroughs. It depends on daily rituals that train your mind, protect your energy, and align your actions with the life you want to create. Start the day like it matters. End the day like it taught you something. And keep repeating that rhythm until your life begins to reflect the power of your rituals. Because in the end, long-term results are not shaped only by what you do once in a while. They are shaped by what you repeatedly honor, morning after morning, evening after evening, until excellence becomes part of the way you live. Chapter 6. Winning the Battle Against Burnout. There is a dangerous lie that ambition often whispers into the ears of driven people. It says that if you want something badly enough, you must keep pushing no matter what. It says rest can wait. It says your body will catch up later. It says your mind does not need recovery. It says slowing down is weakness. It says exhaustion is proof that you are serious. And for a while, that lie can sound convincing. It can even feel noble. You work longer, you sleep less, you ignore the warning signs. You keep moving through stress, pressure, deadlines, and responsibilities with the belief that success belongs to the person who simply refuses to stop. From the outside, this can look like commitment. It can look like discipline. It can look like hunger. But inside, something else may be happening. Your energy is thinning. Your joy is fading. Your focus is weakening. Your patience is disappearing. Your body is carrying tension. Your spirit is becoming tired. This is how burnout often begins. Not with one dramatic collapse, but with a slow disconnection from yourself. Burnout is more than being tired. It is deeper than a busy week. It is not just the normal fatigue that comes after meaningful effort. Burnout is what happens when stress stays too long, recovery stays too short, and the human system is asked to give more than it can sustainably renew. It is the feeling of running on empty while still trying to perform. It is the quiet breakdown that happens when ambition outruns wisdom. And in a world that often celebrates overwork, many people do not recognize burnout until it has already stolen something valuable from them. It steals enthusiasm. It steals creativity. It steals emotional stability. It steals clarity. It steals presence. It steals the ability to enjoy the very life you are working so hard to build. That is why this chapter matters. Because ambition is powerful, but ambition without recovery becomes self-destruction. Drive is valuable, but drive without balance becomes dangerous. Productivity matters, but productivity that cannot be sustained is not real power. It is only temporary force. True high performance does not come from constantly emptying yourself. It comes from learning how to work hard, recover well, and keep showing up with strength over the long run. That is the real victory. Not just working hard for a season, but building a life where your effort can last. Many people live as if they are machines. They expect themselves to produce endlessly, absorb stress silently, and keep functioning at full capacity regardless of how little they rest or how much pressure they carry. But you are not a machine. You are a human being, and human beings are not designed for non-stop output without renewal. The mind needs silence. The body needs sleep. The emotions need release. The soul needs breathing room. Ignore that long enough and burnout becomes almost inevitable. The tragedy is that burnout often happens to the most responsible people, the most caring, the most committed. The ones who want to do well, the ones who say yes too often because they do not want to disappoint anyone. The ones who carry heavy goals and heavy expectations. The ones who believe they must always be strong, always available, always productive. Sometimes burnout is not caused by laziness or lack of discipline. Sometimes it is caused by too much responsibility carried without enough restoration. It begins when a person starts living in permanent output mode. They wake up already tired. They move through the day under tension. They cannot fully relax, even when the work is done. Their mind keeps running. Their emotions feel thin. Small problems feel bigger. Motivation becomes harder to access. Even things they once cared about deeply begin to feel heavy. This is not because they are weak. It is because they have been strong for too long without enough recovery. That distinction matters, because if you misunderstand burnout, you will respond to it in the wrong way. Many people feel burned out and then shame themselves. They say, "I need to be tougher. I need to push harder. I need more discipline." But the problem is not always lack of effort. Sometimes the problem is lack of restoration. Sometimes the answer is not to squeeze harder. Sometimes the answer is to rebuild smarter. That is where sustainable productivity begins. Sustainable productivity is not about doing less because you no longer care. It is about doing what matters in a way that can continue without destroying your health, peace, and long-term effectiveness. It is about understanding that energy is not infinite, attention is not endless, and recovery is not optional. It is about building a rhythm of ambition and renewal that allows you to grow without collapsing. This is the mature version of success. Immature ambition says, more, more, more. Mature ambition says, build in a way that lasts. Immature ambition treats rest like weakness. Mature ambition sees recovery as strategy. Immature ambition wants results at any cost. Mature ambition asks whether the cost is too high. That shift in thinking can change a life. Because many people are chasing a version of success that their nervous system cannot sustain. They want to achieve more, build more, produce more, earn more, and become more, but they have not learned how to create internal conditions that support that level of output. So they keep forcing results from a depleted state. And over time, force stops working. You can only override your limits for so long before those limits begin overriding you. That is why one of the most powerful things you can do is learn the difference between healthy effort and harmful depletion. Healthy effort stretches you. Harmful depletion empties you. Healthy effort can feel challenging, but it still leaves room for recovery. Harmful depletion keeps draining you day after day without enough repair. Healthy effort makes you stronger over time. Harmful depletion makes you weaker over time. The challenge is that both can feel similar in the short term. Both involve work. Both involve pushing. Both involve discomfort. But only one leads to sustainable growth. The other leads to burnout, disguised as dedication. This is why self-awareness is essential. You must learn to notice the warning signs before the collapse comes. Not so you can become fearful, but so you can become wise. Burnout often whispers before it screams. It shows up in irritability, in brain fog, in lack of enthusiasm, in constant tiredness, in feeling emotionally flat, in struggling to focus, in losing patience more quickly, in resenting tasks you once handled well, in sleeping but not feeling restored. in being physically present but mentally absent. These are not signs to ignore with pride. They are signals asking for attention. The strong person is not the one who ignores every signal. The strong person is the one who listens early enough to respond wisely. And part of responding wisely is understanding that rest is productive. That may sound simple, but many ambitious people struggle to believe it. They have trained themselves to value visible output so highly that invisible restoration feels unimportant. But what is sleep doing? It is repairing the brain. What is reflection doing? It is clearing the mind. What is stillness doing? It is calming the nervous system. What is laughter doing? It is lightening emotional weight. What is time away doing? It is helping perspective return. Rest is not the absence of progress. Often, it is what makes progress possible. A burned-out mind does not think clearly. A burned-out body does not perform consistently. A burned-out heart does not stay inspired. So if you want to keep achieving at a high level, recovery must stop being treated like an afterthought. It must become part of the plan. Just as you schedule work, you must respect restoration. Just as you protect output, you must protect renewal. Because the person who knows how to recover well gains an advantage over the person who only knows how to push. This does not mean abandoning ambition. It means refining it. You can still be hungry. You can still be disciplined. You can still be serious about your goals. But now your seriousness includes wisdom. Now your ambition includes stewardship. Now your productivity includes sustainability. That is a more powerful way to live. One of the biggest causes of burnout is the belief that everything matters equally. When a person treats every task as urgent, every request as important, and every opportunity as necessary, they create a life with no real boundaries. Their attention gets stretched, their energy gets divided, their recovery gets delayed, and slowly, exhaustion becomes their normal. But everything is not equally important. One of the great skills of sustainable productivity is learning to distinguish between what is essential and what is merely loud. Not every email deserves your best hours. Not every request deserves your yes. Not every goal deserves to be pursued at the same time. Focus protects energy. Boundaries protect energy. Clarity protects energy. Sometimes burnout is not only about doing too much. It is about doing too much that matters too little. That is why simplification is powerful. When you remove what is unnecessary, you create space for what is meaningful. When you stop scattering your energy across too many directions, you strengthen your ability to show up fully where it counts. Sustainable productivity is not built by endlessly expanding your responsibilities. It is built by being intentional about what deserves your life force. This also means you must stop glorifying exhaustion. Exhaustion is not a badge of honor. Burnout is not proof of greatness. Being constantly overwhelmed does not automatically mean you are important. Sometimes it simply means your life is out of balance. There is no prize for building a successful life that you are too tired to enjoy. There is no wisdom in achieving milestones while your peace, health, and relationships quietly collapse underneath. Real success should strengthen your life, not hollow it out. And yes, there will be seasons that demand more. There will be times when you must stretch. Times when the workload increases. Times when pressure is real. Times when responsibilities feel intense. But even in those seasons, the principle remains the same. Push with awareness, not blindness. Work hard, but do not lose respect for your humanity in the process. You need rhythms. Rhythms of effort and recovery. Rhythms of focus and release. Rhythms of ambition and rest. Without rhythm, life becomes strain. With rhythm, life becomes sustainable strength. Think of the strongest performers in any field. The ones who last do not simply go hard every second. They recover. They reset. They train hard, but they also understand restoration. They know that the goal is not just one strong moment. The goal is to remain strong across time. Endurance is not built through non-stop force. It is built through wise cycles. You need that same wisdom in your life. You need sleep that truly restores, not just collapse at the end of the night. You need moments of silence that let your mind breathe. You need breaks that are real breaks, not just switching from one form of stimulation to another. You need emotional release instead of carrying every burden endlessly. You need space for relationships, joy, gratitude, movement, and perspective. These things do not distract from a high-performing life, they support it. Another hidden cause of burnout is emotional suppression. Many people keep functioning, but they are carrying unspoken pressure inside. Stress from work, fear about the future, disappointment from slow progress, frustration in relationships, pressure to be strong, pressure to succeed, pressure to keep going, even when they feel tired. When emotion is never processed, it becomes weight, and weight carried too long becomes exhaustion. This is why sustainable productivity is not only practical, it is emotional. It requires honesty. You must be honest about what you are carrying, honest about what is draining you, honest about where you need support, boundaries, or recovery. Not every burden is meant to be held in silence forever. Sometimes strength looks like asking for help. Sometimes strength looks like taking a step back. Sometimes strength looks like resting before life forces you to. That is not quitting. That is leadership. Leadership over your own energy. Leadership over your own pace. Leadership over the way you build your future. And perhaps that is one of the most important lessons in this chapter. Pace matters. A life built at the wrong pace becomes unstable, even if the goals are impressive. But a life built at a sustainable pace becomes resilient. It can absorb challenge. It can keep going through difficulty. It can recover from setbacks. It can endure. You do not need a pace that impresses people for a week. You need a pace that allows you to grow for years. That may require saying no more often. It may require building margin into your schedule. It may require sleeping more, not less. It may require rethinking what productivity really means. It may require letting go of the addiction to urgency. It may require accepting that recovery is part of excellence. But these are not losses. They are upgrades. They move you from frantic performance to grounded performance, from unstable output to sustainable output, from burnout cycles to long-term growth. And that is a better path. So if you have been feeling stretched, exhausted, emotionally thin, or mentally drained, hear this clearly. You are not failing because you need recovery. You are human. The answer is not to become less ambitious. The answer is to become more skillful in how you carry ambition. Let wisdom guide your drive. Let recovery support your effort. Let sustainability become part of your strategy. Because the real goal is not to sprint yourself into emptiness. The real goal is to build a life of meaningful achievement that your body, mind, and heart can actually sustain. That is how you win the battle against burnout. You stop worshipping non-stop output. You stop confusing exhaustion with excellence. You stop pushing without listening. You stop treating recovery as weakness. And you begin building differently. You build with intensity, but also with intelligence. You build with ambition, but also with peace. You build with discipline, but also with renewal. You build with fire, but also with wisdom. That is what lasting success requires. So keep your goals, keep your hunger, keep your commitment, but guard your energy, respect your limits, honor your need for recovery, and remember that sustainable productivity is not about doing less of what matters. It is about doing it in a way that allows your strength to remain, because your dreams deserve more than a burned-out version of you. They deserve a steady, clear, energized, and resilient version of you. A version that can keep showing up. A version that can keep growing. A version that can carry ambition without being crushed by it. That is the person you are becoming. And that is how burnout stops being the end of the story. It becomes the wake-up call that teaches you to build a stronger one. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Consistency. There is something powerful about a person who keeps showing up, not once in a while, not only when they feel inspired, not only when conditions are perfect, not only when life is easy, energy is high, and confidence is strong, but consistently. There is a quiet strength in that kind of person, a depth, a reliability, a kind of inner power that cannot be faked. Because while talent may attract attention and motivation may create a quick burst of action, consistency is what builds a life. Consistency is what turns intention into identity. It is what separates temporary excitement from lasting transformation. That is why this chapter matters. Many people spend their lives waiting for motivation to carry them. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel inspired. They wait for the right mood, the right timing, the right emotional spark. And when that spark comes, they move with passion. They make plans. They start strong. They feel powerful. For a few days, maybe even a few weeks, they look unstoppable. But then life happens. Fatigue appears. Stress interrupts. Doubt shows up. The schedule gets crowded. The emotions shift. The excitement fades. And suddenly the action stops. This is where so many dreams quietly break apart. Not because people do not care. Not because they are incapable. But because they built their progress on a feeling that was never meant to carry the full weight of their future. Motivation is beautiful, but it is unreliable. It rises and falls. It can ignite a fire, but it cannot always keep that fire burning. Consistency does something different. Consistency teaches you how to move without waiting for perfect feelings. It teaches you how to act when the mood is low. It teaches you how to keep your word to yourself. It teaches you that progress is not built only in emotional highs, but in repeated effort across ordinary days. That is where real power is formed. A talented person who lacks consistency often lives below their potential. They may have gifts, ideas, and ability, but without repeated action, those gifts remain scattered. Potential means very little if it is not expressed consistently. Talent may give you an advantage at the beginning, but it cannot replace discipline over time. Meanwhile, a less naturally gifted person who keeps showing up can accomplish extraordinary things. Why? Because consistency compounds. Small efforts, repeated daily, create results that occasional intensity never can. A person who writes a little every day eventually creates a body of work. A person who trains regularly becomes stronger. A person who saves consistently builds stability. A person who learns a little each day becomes deeply skilled over time. The world often notices the breakthrough, but it rarely sees the repetition that created it. Consistency is not glamorous in the beginning. It is often quiet, ordinary, and unimpressive. It looks like waking up and doing the work again. It looks like practicing when nobody is watching. It looks like staying faithful to the process long before the results become visible. It looks like continuing when progress feels slow. It looks like honoring your commitments even when there is no applause. And that is exactly why it is so powerful. Because consistency is proof of seriousness. It says, I am not just interested, I am committed. It says, I do not need daily excitement to move forward. It says, I am willing to build this one day at a time. It says, my future matters too much to be left to my moods. That mindset changes everything. So many people underestimate the importance of simply continuing. They assume success belongs only to the most gifted, the most connected, the most charismatic, or the most lucky. But in many cases, success belongs to the person who stayed with the process longer than others were willing to. The one who kept learning, kept practicing, kept improving, kept returning after setbacks, kept going when the early excitement was gone. That is the discipline of consistency. It is the decision to show up again and again until the work becomes part of who you are. Consistency matters because life is not won in one moment. It is shaped in patterns. The person you become is built through what you repeatedly do. Repetition creates identity. If you repeatedly delay, you strengthen delay. If you repeatedly quit when it gets hard, you strengthen fragility. But if you repeatedly show up, even imperfectly, you strengthen discipline. You build trust with yourself. You create evidence that you can be counted on. That inner trust is priceless. Every time you do what you said you would do, even in a small way, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. You begin to believe your own promises. You stop seeing yourself as someone who always starts and stops. You stop identifying as a person who depends on emotion to act. You become someone solid, someone steady, someone who follows through. That kind of self-respect cannot be bought. It must be built, and it is built through consistency. Now let us be honest. Consistency is not always exciting. In fact, much of the time it feels repetitive. It can feel slow. It can feel invisible. There will be days when the work feels meaningful and rewarding. But there will also be days when it feels ordinary. Days when the task feels familiar. Days when results seem delayed. Days when you wonder whether your effort is making a difference. This is where many people quit. They confuse lack of excitement with lack of progress. They assume that because the work feels repetitive, it is no longer powerful. They believe that because the results are not immediate, the process is not working. But that is a dangerous mistake. The most important growth often happens quietly. Just because change is not dramatic does not mean it is not real. Muscles grow through repeated strain. Skills grow through repeated practice. Character grows through repeated choices. Greatness grows through repeated discipline. The process may look boring from the outside, but inside something is forming. Strength is developing. Identity is deepening. Capacity is expanding. That is why you must learn to respect the ordinary day. The ordinary day is where consistency lives, and consistency is where transformation lives. Anyone can have one powerful day. Anyone can feel inspired once in a while. Anyone can make a strong start. But can you keep going when the work becomes routine? Can you keep going when progress feels slow? Can you keep going when nobody notices? Can you keep going when life becomes inconvenient? Those questions reveal your true level of commitment. Because success is not mainly about what you do once in a burst of emotion. It is about what you are willing to repeat long enough for change to take root. The person who shows up consistently, even imperfectly, will often outperform the person who relies on occasional brilliance. Why? Because consistency creates momentum, and momentum makes action easier. The more often you show up, the less energy you waste starting over. Starting over is expensive. Every time you stop and disappear from your process for too long, you lose rhythm, you lose familiarity, you lose trust. Then when you try to begin again, it feels harder than it should. Not because you are incapable, but because inconsistency creates friction. It turns progress into a cycle of stop, start, regret, and restart. Consistency breaks that cycle. It allows progress to become more natural. It reduces mental resistance. It turns discipline into rhythm. This does not mean you must be perfect every day. That is not the message. Perfection is fragile. Consistency is resilient. A consistent person is not someone who never misses a day, never struggles, or never falls off course. A consistent person is someone who returns quickly. Someone who does not let one bad day become a bad week, one bad week become a bad month, or one difficult season become a permanent identity. That ability to return matters deeply. Sometimes the real discipline is not in never falling. It is in refusing to stay down. There will be interruptions. There will be setbacks. There will be days when your energy is low and your focus is weak. There will be seasons when life becomes heavier than expected. Consistency is not about pretending those things do not exist. It is about choosing not to let them end the story. It is about learning how to come back to the process with humility, maturity, and persistence. That is how consistency becomes powerful. Not because it is flawless, but because it is faithful. Another reason consistency beats motivation and talent is because consistency teaches endurance. It trains you to operate beyond emotion. It reminds you that feelings are real, but they do not always deserve control over your direction. On some days, you will feel excited. On others, you will feel flat. On some days, confidence will be high. On others, doubt will whisper louder. But if your actions depend entirely on emotional weather, then your progress will always be unstable. Consistency anchors you beyond feelings. It gives you a standard that does not change every time your mood changes. It teaches you that you can act even when enthusiasm is absent. It trains you to value commitment more than comfort. That lesson can transform an entire life. Imagine what happens when a person truly learns this. They stop saying, "I'll do it when I feel like it." They begin saying, "I do it because it matters." They stop waiting for perfect internal conditions. They become the kind of person who honors the process anyway. That shift turns dreams into structure. It turns desire into discipline. It turns wishful thinking into real progress. And progress, even slow progress, is powerful. A small step every day may not look dramatic, but over time it becomes impossible to ignore. A page a day becomes a manuscript. A workout a day becomes strength. A prayer a day becomes spiritual depth. A focused hour a day becomes mastery. A wise choice a day becomes a new life. This is how consistency works. It compounds in silence until the results begin speaking for themselves. That is why you should never underestimate small, faithful actions. Big moments may inspire your life. Small, repeated actions shape it. This is especially important in a world obsessed with speed. Many people want rapid change. They want fast results, instant recognition, quick proof that the process is working. But some of the most meaningful things in life grow slowly. Character grows slowly. Trust grows slowly. Mastery grows slowly. Strong habits grow slowly. Lasting success grows slowly. The person who understands this becomes patient enough to stay in the process long enough to benefit from it. Patience and consistency are close friends. One helps you endure the delay. The other helps you keep moving through it. Without patience, consistency feels frustrating. Without consistency, patience becomes passive, but together they create powerful momentum. There is also a spiritual strength in consistency. It teaches humility. It reminds you that most meaningful achievement is not built through ego, but through faithful stewardship of each day. It teaches you to respect process. It helps you realize that greatness is rarely explosive. More often, it is accumulated, layer by layer, choice by choice, day by day. That should encourage you, because it means you do not need to change your whole life in one dramatic moment. You need to keep showing up. You need to keep honoring what matters. You need to keep taking the next wise step. You need to keep returning to your values, your habits, your priorities, and your purpose until your actions begin to match the future you say you want. And yes, talent matters. Yes, inspiration has a role. Yes, motivation can be helpful. But none of those things can fully replace consistency. Talent without consistency becomes wasted potential. Motivation without consistency becomes unfinished intention. Dreams without consistency become frustration. But consistency, even without dramatic talent, creates growth. Consistency creates reliability. Consistency creates trust. Consistency creates depth. Consistency creates results. It may not happen overnight, but it happens. So what does this mean for you? It means you must stop waiting for the perfect feeling before you move. It means you must stop measuring progress only by dramatic results. It means you must stop underestimating the value of ordinary faithful effort. Decide what matters. Choose your habits. Honor your commitments. Return when you fall. Keep showing up. Not because it is always exciting, not because it is always easy, but because the life you want will be built by what you repeat. One day, you will look back and realize that the real transformation did not happen in one giant leap. It happened in 1,000 small acts of discipline. It happened in the moments you chose to continue. It happened in the mornings you showed up tired but willing. It happened in the evenings you stayed faithful to the process. It happened when you kept going without needing applause. That is the discipline of consistency. It is not loud, but it is strong. It is not flashy, but it is life-changing. It is not built on feeling, but on faithfulness. And in the end, that is why it beats motivation and talent, because motivation may begin the journey, talent may make the first steps easier, but consistency is what carries you far enough to become who you were meant to be. So keep showing up, keep building, keep honoring the process, keep becoming, because every day you return with discipline, you are proving something powerful to yourself, that your future does not belong to your moods, your excuses, or your temporary feelings. It belongs to the person you are becoming through consistent action, and that person is stronger than you think. Chapter 8: Peak Performance Mindset. There is a version of you that only appears under pressure, not the version that shows up when life is easy, not the version that appears when everything is going your way, not the version that feels strong because nothing is being tested, but the version that emerges when things get difficult, uncertain, uncomfortable, and demanding. That is where mindset becomes real. Anyone can feel confident when results are coming easily. Anyone can feel strong when there is no resistance. Anyone can stay calm when life is predictable. But peak performance is not built in comfort. It is built in challenge. It is revealed in moments when the mind has a choice: break under pressure or rise through it. That is why this chapter matters, because success at the highest level is not only about strategy, talent, knowledge, or hard work. It is also about the quality of your inner world. It is about what you believe when progress is slow. It is about how you respond when things go wrong. It is about whether your mind becomes your greatest ally or your greatest obstacle. A peak performance mindset is what allows a person to stay steady, focused, and strong when lesser habits would cause them to quit, panic, or doubt themselves into paralysis. This mindset is made of three powerful forces: resilience, confidence, and mental toughness. Resilience is your ability to recover. Confidence is your belief in your ability. Mental toughness is your willingness to keep going when the path is hard. When these three are strengthened together, something powerful begins to happen. You stop being controlled by every setback. You stop needing ideal circumstances to perform. You stop collapsing every time life becomes difficult. You begin to move with a deeper kind of strength. Not loud strength, not fake strength, but grounded strength, quiet strength, reliable strength. That is the kind of strength that changes a life. Let us begin with resilience. Resilience is often misunderstood. Many people think resilience means never feeling pain, never getting discouraged, never being affected by hardship. But that is not resilience. That is emotional numbness, and numbness is not power. Real resilience does not mean you never get shaken. It means you do not stay shaken. It means life can hit you, disappoint you, test you, stretch you, and still you find your way back. You recover, you adapt, you rise again. That ability is priceless, because life will test you. Not once, but repeatedly. There will be days when plans fail. There will be seasons when effort does not seem to produce immediate results. There will be moments when people misunderstand you. Opportunities disappear, mistakes happen, and uncertainty grows. If your mindset is fragile, every challenge begins to feel like proof that you are not capable. But if your mindset is resilient, challenge becomes something different. It becomes feedback. It becomes training. It becomes part of your growth. Resilient people do not have easier lives. They simply develop stronger recoveries. That is the difference. They feel disappointment, but they do not build a home inside it. They experience failure, but they do not turn it into identity. They face setbacks, but they do not treat setbacks as final. They understand that falling is part of the process, but staying down is a decision. And that understanding makes them powerful. Resilience grows when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That question shifts your position. It moves you from victimhood to ownership. It reminds you that difficulty does not always come to destroy you. Sometimes it comes to develop you. Sometimes pressure reveals weakness not to shame you, but to show you where growth is needed. Sometimes hardship is the training ground where strength is forged. A tree grows stronger because of resistance. A muscle grows stronger because of strain. A person grows stronger when they learn how to meet adversity without surrendering their identity or purpose. That is resilience. Now let us talk about confidence, because many people want it, but few understand how it is truly built. Confidence is not arrogance. It is not pretending you know everything. It is not acting loud to hide insecurity. It is not believing that you will never fail. Real confidence is quieter than that. Real confidence is trust. It is the deep inner belief that no matter what happens, you can face it, learn from it, and continue forward. Confidence is not built by wishing for it. It is built by evidence. It grows when you keep promises to yourself. It grows when you do hard things and survive them. It grows when you act with courage before you feel fully ready. It grows when you realize that your strength is greater than your fear. This is why confidence cannot be borrowed for long. You can get temporary encouragement from other people, and that matters. But lasting confidence must be built from within. It must come from your own repeated experiences of discipline, effort, and recovery. Every time you show up, even when it is difficult, you give yourself proof. Every time you finish something you once thought was too hard, you create evidence. Every time you face discomfort, instead of running from it, you strengthen your belief in yourself. Confidence says, I may not know exactly how everything will unfold, but I trust my ability to respond. That is powerful. Many people believe confidence comes before action. In reality, action often creates confidence. Waiting to feel fully ready is one of the fastest ways to remain stuck. You become more confident by doing, by trying, by learning, by failing, and continuing. By walking into the room even when your hands shake. By speaking even when your voice is not perfect. By starting even when the whole path is not clear. Confidence is earned in motion. And then there is mental toughness, one of the most important qualities in peak performance. Mental toughness is the discipline to remain steady under pressure. It is the ability to continue with focus, character, and commitment even when things feel uncomfortable. It is not about becoming cold or emotionless. It is about developing a mind that does not surrender easily. A mind that can stay with the mission. A mind that can endure. A mind that does not turn temporary pain into permanent defeat. Mental toughness matters because life is not always kind to weak thinking. There will be moments when the easy option calls to you, the option to quit, the option to complain, the option to delay, the option to retreat into excuses. In those moments, mental toughness becomes the bridge between intention and execution. It is what says, this is hard, but I do not break here. It is what says, I feel resistance, but I still move. It is what says, I do not need this moment to be comfortable in order to remain committed. That kind of mindset is not natural for most people. It must be trained. It is trained when you keep going a little longer than your comfort wanted. It is trained when you stay calm instead of reacting emotionally. It is trained when you choose discipline over excuses. It is trained when you remain faithful to the process in the middle of pressure. Mental toughness is built in those ordinary but defining decisions. The beautiful truth is that peak performance mindset is available to anyone willing to train it. It is not reserved for athletes, CEOs, public figures, or the naturally fearless. It belongs to the person who decides that their mind will no longer be weak, reactive, and easily defeated. It belongs to the person who understands that their inner dialogue shapes their outer performance. And inner dialogue matters more than most people realize. How do you speak to yourself when things go wrong? How do you interpret difficulty? How do you respond when you make a mistake? What story do you tell yourself in moments of pressure? These questions are not small. They determine whether your mindset becomes a source of power or sabotage. If you constantly tell yourself that you are behind, not enough, incapable, unlucky, or doomed to fail, your mind will perform from that script. But if you train yourself to speak with truth, strength, and responsibility, your performance changes. This does not mean blind positivity. It means disciplined thinking. It means refusing to let fear, doubt, or temporary setbacks write the story of who you are. A peak performer learns to govern their thoughts. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every emotion deserves control. Not every setback deserves a dramatic conclusion. That is maturity. That is power. When something difficult happens, a weak mindset says, this is the end. A stronger mindset says, this is a challenge. A peak performance mindset says, this is part of the path, stay steady. That shift can save years of wasted energy. Because so much suffering is multiplied, not only by the event itself, but by the meaning we attach to it. A mistake becomes, I am a failure. A delay becomes, nothing ever works for me. A hard season becomes, maybe I am not built for this. But those are not facts. They are interpretations, and interpretations can be changed. You must learn to separate momentary struggle from permanent identity. You are not your worst day. You are not your latest mistake. You are not defined by one failure, one rejection, one delay, or one period of doubt. You are being shaped, not finished. You are in process, not disqualified. This is one of the most important beliefs a strong mind can hold. Peak performers are not stronger because they never feel fear. They are stronger because they do not worship fear. They feel it, but they keep moving. They acknowledge pressure, but they do not bow to it. They understand that courage is not the absence of discomfort. It is the decision to act with purpose in the presence of discomfort. And that is exactly what builds mental toughness over time. Every challenge you face gives you a choice. Will this moment weaken your identity or strengthen it? Will this pressure scatter you or sharpen you? Will this setback define you or develop you? Those questions are answered not by what you feel, but by what you repeatedly choose. This is why adversity can become an advantage. Not because pain is pleasant, not because struggle is easy, but because hardship gives you an opportunity to become someone deeper, wiser, and stronger than comfort ever could. Comfort rarely develops character. Difficulty often does. Some of the strongest people in the world are not strong because life was gentle with them. They are strong because they learned how to suffer without losing themselves. They learned how to adapt, recover, and keep believing. They learned how to carry responsibility without breaking under it. They learned how to turn pressure into refinement. That can become your story too. You can train yourself to recover faster. You can train yourself to believe more deeply. You can train yourself to remain steady under pressure. You can train yourself to stop collapsing every time life gets hard. Not overnight, but through daily mental discipline. That discipline may look like catching negative thoughts before they take root. It may look like returning to truth when fear is loud. It may look like doing what is necessary even when emotions are unstable. It may look like remembering your values when the moment tempts you to act beneath them. It may look like staying calm, breathing deeply, and refusing to panic. These things may seem simple, but repeated enough, they create a formidable mind. There is also a deep connection between identity and performance. If you see yourself as fragile, you will likely act fragile. If you see yourself as inconsistent, you will keep excusing inconsistency. If you see yourself as someone who always falls apart under pressure, pressure will keep proving you right. But if you begin to build a new identity, everything starts to shift. What if you began seeing yourself as resilient? What if you began seeing yourself as someone who recovers? What if you began seeing yourself as a person who can handle hard things? What if you began seeing yourself as mentally strong, emotionally grounded, and capable of growth? Identity shapes action. That is why you must stop rehearsing weakness in your mind. Stop repeating stories that keep you small. Stop using your past as proof that your future cannot be different. You are allowed to build a stronger identity. You are allowed to become someone who performs with excellence and steadiness. You are allowed to rise, but you must participate in that rise. You must practice resilience. You must build confidence through action. You must strengthen mental toughness through repeated discipline. You must stop waiting for life to become easy before deciding to become strong. Because the truth is, life may not become easier in the way you hope, but you can become wiser, stronger, more stable, more resilient, more prepared. And when that happens, the same pressure that once crushed you will begin to reveal your growth. That is the power of a peak performance mindset. It does not eliminate challenge. It changes how you meet it. It helps you stay composed when others panic. It helps you stay committed when others quit. It helps you stay hopeful when others become cynical. It helps you stay disciplined when others become emotional. It helps you lead yourself when circumstances are uncertain. And that kind of inner leadership is rare. So when the next challenge comes, and it will, do not ask only for easier conditions. Ask for a stronger mind. Ask for deeper resilience. Ask for real confidence. Ask for mental toughness that does not disappear when life becomes uncomfortable. Then train those qualities daily. Choose courage over avoidance. Choose truth over self-defeating stories. Choose discipline over emotional chaos. Choose recovery over defeat. Choose to rise again and again until strength becomes your nature. Because peak performance is not only about what you can do on your best day, it is about who you become on your hardest day. And when you develop that kind of mindset, something extraordinary happens. You stop fearing pressure so much. You stop doubting yourself so quickly. You stop letting difficulty decide your identity. You become stronger than the moment. You become greater than the setback. You become someone who can carry vision through challenge. That is resilience. That is confidence. That is mental toughness. And that is the mindset that allows a person not only to perform at a high level, but to keep rising with strength, no matter what the path demands. Chapter 9. High Performance in Real Life. It is one thing to talk about focus, energy, discipline, and mindset in theory. It is another thing to live them in the middle of real life. Real life is where the alarm rings early. Real life is where bills need to be paid. Real life is where people disappoint you. Work gets stressful, plans change, energy drops, and responsibilities pile up. Real life is where you are trying to grow while also trying to survive. Real life is where your ideals are tested by your schedule, your emotions, your environment, and your daily choices. That is why this chapter matters so much. Because high performance is not just a concept for athletes, executives, or people living perfectly organized lives. It is not reserved for those with unlimited time, unlimited resources, or ideal circumstances. High performance is for ordinary people who want to live with extraordinary intention. It is for the person who wants to do better at work, show up better in relationships, and keep becoming better within themselves. It is for anyone who refuses to let life become random, reactive, and emotionally draining. High performance in real life means learning how to apply what matters most, where it matters most. It means bringing your focus to your work. It means bringing your energy to your relationships. It means bringing your discipline to your growth. It means living in a way where your best principles do not stay on paper, but shape the way you move through actual days. This is where everything begins to connect. By now, you understand that focus is power. You understand that energy is valuable. You understand that habits matter, consistency wins, and recovery is necessary. But knowledge only becomes transformational when it becomes practical. A truth you admire but never apply will not change your life. A principle that sounds inspiring but never enters your routine will remain only an idea. This chapter is about embodiment. It is about taking high performance out of motivation and into reality. Let us begin with career, because this is one of the places where people feel the tension most. Work can either become a place of growth, purpose, and contribution, or it can become a place where energy leaks, attention scatters, and identity gets buried under pressure. The difference often depends not only on the job itself, but on how you show up within it. Many people bring a reactive mindset to their career. They move from task to task, answer whatever is loudest, and spend their best mental energy on whatever feels most urgent in the moment. At the end of the day, they feel busy but not fulfilled. They worked, but they did not move meaningfully. They stayed active, but they did not build momentum. High performance at work requires something different. It requires intentionality. It requires clarity. It requires the ability to distinguish between activity and impact. A high performer in real life does not just ask, "What do I need to finish today?" They also ask, "What actually matters most here? Where can I create the most value? What deserves my best attention?" These questions separate shallow busyness from meaningful progress. Because in a career, just like in life, not everything deserves equal energy. Some tasks maintain the system. Some tasks move the future. If you constantly spend your best hours only reacting, you may stay employed, but you may not grow. Growth often comes when you bring focused energy to work that sharpens your skill, deepens your value, and stretches your capacity. It comes when you take ownership instead of waiting to be pushed. It comes when you stop working only to get through the day and start working to become more capable within the day. That is where career development becomes powerful. High performance at work is not only about promotions or recognition. It is about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted with responsibility, who can think clearly under pressure, who can manage energy wisely, and who can create consistent value over time. Those qualities matter in every field. Whether you lead a company, run a small business, serve clients, study in school, or work behind the scenes, the principle is the same. Your level of presence, excellence, and consistency shapes your professional future. And presence matters more than people realize. How often are people physically at work, but mentally somewhere else? How often are they completing assignments without real attention? How often are they showing up with tired energy, distracted minds, and low emotional engagement? It is common, but it is costly. When you bring focused attention to your work, even ordinary tasks become stronger. You make fewer careless mistakes. You think more clearly. You communicate more effectively. You notice more. You solve problems faster. You become more dependable. Over time, this builds reputation, confidence, and opportunity. Career high performance is not about doing everything. It is about doing the right things with depth and consistency. But success at work is only one part of real life. If high performance strengthens your career while your relationships collapse, something important has been missed. Relationships are one of the clearest places where focus and energy become visible. Because relationships do not thrive on talent, they thrive on presence. They thrive on listening, patience, empathy, consistency, honesty, and emotional availability. And these things require energy. One of the saddest patterns in modern life is that many people give their best energy to work and their leftovers to the people they love. They are disciplined in public, distracted at home. They are attentive in meetings, absent in conversations. They are driven in their goals, but emotionally unavailable in their relationships. Slowly, connection weakens not always because of major betrayal, but because of repeated inattention. This is why high performance must include relational excellence. To perform highly in relationships does not mean being perfect. It means being intentional. It means understanding that the quality of your attention affects the quality of your connection. When someone speaks to you, are you really there? When conflict appears, do you respond with maturity or with emotional impulsiveness? When your loved ones need your presence, do they receive your peace or your exhaustion? These questions matter because relationships are built in moments. A conversation, a response, a tone of voice, a choice to listen instead of interrupt, a choice to put the phone down, a choice to stay calm, a choice to apologize, a choice to notice what someone else is carrying. These moments may seem small, but they are the daily language of love, trust, and respect. High performance in relationships means bringing the same intentionality to people that you bring to goals. It means recognizing that success is incomplete if your external life is advancing while your inner circle feels neglected. It means understanding that emotional energy must be stewarded, because if you live constantly drained, you will often bring your worst self into the spaces that matter most. This is where recovery becomes relational. When you care for your energy, the people around you benefit too. A rested person listens better. A peaceful person responds better. A focused person connects better. An emotionally grounded person loves better. That is not selfishness. That is stewardship. Taking care of yourself wisely is not only for your own benefit, it also changes what you bring into the lives of others. And then there is personal growth, the third great arena where high performance must become real. Personal growth is the lifelong process of becoming more aware, more disciplined, more healed, more capable, and more aligned with the person you are meant to be. It is not something that happens automatically with age. A person can grow older without growing wiser. They can repeat the same patterns for years and call it life. Growth requires intention. This is where many people struggle. They want better lives, but they resist better habits. They want new results, but they protect old patterns. They want change, but they do not consistently create the conditions that change requires. High performance in personal growth means taking responsibility for your own development. It means refusing to live on autopilot. It means noticing where you need to mature, where you need healing, where you need discipline, and where you need courage. It means asking hard questions. Where am I wasting my life? Where am I avoiding growth? What habits are keeping me small? What beliefs are keeping me stuck? What patterns must change if I want my future to look different? These are not easy questions, but they are freeing questions. Because what you are willing to face, you can begin to transform. Personal growth is where high performance becomes deeply personal. It is no longer about impressing others. It is about becoming stronger in private. It is about learning how to manage your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, and your direction. It is about becoming a better steward of your time, a better guardian of your attention, a better leader of your own life. And this kind of growth affects everything else. When you become more disciplined internally, your work improves. When you become more emotionally healthy, your relationships improve. When you become more focused, your future becomes clearer. When you become more honest with yourself, your choices become wiser. That is why personal growth is not optional if you want a high-performance life. It is the inner work behind the outer results. But real life is not lived in separate boxes. Career, relationships, and personal growth are connected. What happens in one area often affects the others. If work consumes all your energy, relationships suffer. If your emotional world is unhealthy, your career suffers. If you neglect personal growth, both work and relationships begin carrying the weight of that neglect. This means high performance in real life is not about becoming obsessed with one area while ignoring the rest. It is about integration. It is about building a life where your focus, energy, and values work together instead of fighting one another. This requires wisdom. It requires knowing when to push and when to rest. It requires knowing what season you are in. It requires knowing what deserves your best energy right now. It requires knowing that balance is not always equal time, but it is responsible awareness. Some days career will demand more. Some days relationships will need more. Some seasons personal growth will require deep attention. The key is not perfection. The key is consciousness. High performers in real life learn not to drift too long. They notice when one area has been neglected. They adjust. They return. They realign. That is maturity. There is also a powerful truth here. High performance in real life is not about doing more things. It is about doing important things with greater presence and quality. Many people think improvement means adding more goals, more habits, more plans, more pressure. But often the next level comes not from adding everything, but from bringing excellence to what already matters. Be more present at work. Be more patient in relationships. Be more honest in self-reflection. Be more disciplined with energy. Be more intentional with attention. Be more faithful with daily choices. These shifts may sound simple, but over time they transform reality. Imagine the person who works with clear focus instead of scattered urgency. Imagine the person who listens deeply instead of half paying attention. Imagine the person who keeps growing instead of staying stuck in old patterns. Imagine the person who manages energy with wisdom instead of living in constant depletion. Imagine the person who brings steadiness into each area of life instead of chaos. That person becomes powerful, not because life became easy, but because they learned how to live with intention. And that can become your life too. You do not need a perfect environment. You do not need unlimited free time. You do not need to master everything at once. You need awareness. You need priorities. You need discipline. You need the willingness to apply what you know. That is how high performance becomes real. It becomes real when you stop saying, "One day I'll live differently," and start asking, "How do I show up differently today?" It becomes real when you bring your best mind to your work. It becomes real when you bring your best heart to your relationships. It becomes real when you bring your best honesty to your own growth. Not every day will feel perfect. Some days you will be tired. Some days you will get distracted. Some days you will miss the standard you wanted to live by. Return anyway. Because high performance is not a flawless lifestyle. It is a committed one. It is the repeated decision to come back to what matters, to refocus, to recover, to reconnect, to keep growing, to keep aligning your life with your values. That is where the beauty of this chapter really lives. High performance is not meant to make you less human. It is meant to help you become a stronger, wiser, more present human, one who works with purpose, loves with attention, and grows with discipline. One who does not let life happen carelessly, but chooses to live it deliberately. So bring your focus to your career, bring your energy to your relationships, bring your discipline to your personal growth. And remember this, a high-performance life is not built only in big moments of achievement. It is built in everyday moments of alignment. It is built when your work reflects excellence. It is built when your relationships reflect presence. It is built when your private life reflects growth. That is real success. That is real strength. That is high performance in real life. And when you begin to live that way, something remarkable happens. Your days stop feeling disconnected. Your energy stops being wasted so carelessly. Your actions begin to support the person you are becoming. And little by little, your whole life starts moving with greater clarity, greater integrity, and greater power. That is not just productivity. That is a life being built on purpose. Chapter 10. Living the Limitless Life. There comes a moment in every meaningful journey when knowledge is no longer enough. You have learned, you have reflected, you have grown, you have seen where your old patterns were holding you back. You have begun to understand focus, energy, discipline, recovery, consistency, and mindset. But now a deeper question rises. How will you live from here? That is the question at the heart of this final chapter. Because a limitless life is not a life without difficulty. It is not a life with zero obstacles, zero fear, zero setbacks, or zero uncertainty. It is not a fantasy world where everything unfolds perfectly and success arrives without resistance. A limitless life is something far more powerful than that. It is a life no longer controlled by confusion, passivity, distraction, or small thinking. It is a life designed with clarity, guided by purpose, and built through intentional action. That is what it means to live limitless. To live limitless is to stop moving through life as if you are here only to react. It is to stop treating your days like random events and start seeing them as building blocks of a future you are responsible for shaping. It is to realize that your potential does not unfold automatically. It unfolds when you decide to become the kind of person who can carry it. And that decision changes everything. Many people live far below their potential, not because they lack ability, but because they lack direction. They are busy but not clear. They are active but not aligned. They have dreams, but no real structure around those dreams. They want better, but their lives are still being shaped by old habits, old fears, and old beliefs. They hope for transformation, but they live without design. And when life is not designed, it is often drifted. You drift into routines you never chose. You drift into relationships that weaken you. You drift into years that pass too quickly. You drift into a version of life that feels full on the outside but hollow on the inside. That is why clarity matters so deeply. Clarity is one of the great powers of a meaningful life. It helps you see what matters, what does not, what deserves your energy, and what needs to be released. Without clarity, you may work hard in the wrong direction. You may chase goals that do not truly belong to you. You may keep saying yes to things that leave you empty. You may confuse movement with progress and noise with purpose. But when clarity comes, life becomes stronger. You begin to see the difference between what is urgent and what is important. You begin to understand what kind of person you want to become. You begin to recognize what kind of life feels aligned with your deepest values. You begin to stop living by default and start living by design. That is the beginning of the limitless life, not when everything around you becomes perfect, but when something inside you becomes clear, and clarity leads naturally to purpose. Purpose is not merely a job title. It is not just a goal. It is not just an achievement or an image of success. Purpose is deeper than that. Purpose is the reason your life should be lived with intention. It is the deeper why behind your effort. It is what gives meaning to discipline, direction to your gifts, and weight to your choices. Purpose is what keeps you moving when the path feels slow. It is what reminds you that your life is not meant to be wasted in distraction, fear, or endless delay. A person with purpose walks differently. They still face uncertainty, but they are not owned by it. They still feel fear, but they are not ruled by it. They still experience difficulty, but they remember why they started. Purpose gives endurance to the soul. And yet many people spend years disconnected from purpose because they are too distracted to hear themselves think. Their days are so filled with noise that they never pause long enough to ask the deeper questions. What do I want my life to stand for? What kind of legacy am I building? What strengths has life placed inside me? What values do I want my choices to reflect? What future would require me to become more disciplined, more courageous, and more intentional? These are not small questions. They are life-shaping questions, and the more honestly you answer them, the more powerfully you can begin to design the future. That is what intentional action is about. Intentional action means you stop waiting for the perfect moment and start honoring the present one. It means you stop treating your future like something that will magically arrange itself. It means you begin making decisions today that create the life you say you want tomorrow. Because the future is not built in one dramatic moment, it is built in daily alignment. A limitless life does not appear all at once. It is created choice by choice, habit by habit, boundary by boundary, decision by decision, day by day. This is what makes life both humbling and empowering. You may not control everything that happens, but you do control how you respond. You do control what you build. You do control what you repeat. You do control whether you keep drifting or start designing. And those controls are powerful enough to change the direction of your life. Think about how many people wait. They wait to feel confident before starting. They wait to feel motivated before acting. They wait for less fear, less doubt, more time, more certainty, better conditions. And while they wait, life keeps moving. But intentional people understand something different. They understand that clarity often grows through action, not before it. They understand that courage is built in motion. They understand that progress comes to the one who begins, not just to the one who dreams. So they move, imperfectly perhaps, but honestly, slowly at times, but steadily. They stop worshipping perfect timing and start respecting faithful action. That is how a limitless future begins. It begins when you accept full responsibility for what your life is becoming. Responsibility is one of the most freeing forces in the world. Many people think responsibility is a burden, but in truth it is power. The moment you stop blaming everything outside you, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You become a builder. You become someone who no longer waits for rescue. You become someone who understands that while the past has shaped you, it does not have to define you. While circumstances matter, they do not get the final word. While pain is real, it does not have to become your permanent identity. You still have authorship. And authorship matters. Living the limitless life means deciding that you will no longer speak about your future as if it belongs to luck, mood, or chance alone. It means choosing to write a better story through better patterns. It means looking honestly at the life you are currently living and asking whether it matches the life you truly want. If the answer is no, then change begins now. Not someday, not when it feels easier, not when the stars align. Now. Maybe the change begins with your mornings. Maybe it begins with protecting your focus. Maybe it begins with recovering from burnout. Maybe it begins with having the hard conversation. Maybe it begins with ending a habit that has kept you small. Maybe it begins with finally believing that your life can become more than repetition and survival. Whatever form it takes, the principle remains the same. Intentional action closes the gap between potential and reality, and that gap is where so many people lose years. They have vision without structure, desire without discipline, hope without follow-through. But a limitless life asks for more maturity than that. It asks you to become the kind of person who can hold a vision and build it patiently. It asks you to care about who you are becoming while you pursue what you want. It asks you to stop chasing results in a way that destroys your peace and instead build a future that is not only impressive from the outside, but meaningful from the inside. That is an important distinction, because not every successful-looking life is a limitless life. Some people achieve things yet still feel trapped by anxiety, emptiness, exhaustion, or misalignment. They have more, but they are not more free. They are accomplished, but not deeply fulfilled. That is why this chapter is not only about ambition. It is about alignment. A limitless life is aligned. Your values align with your choices. Your goals align with your deeper purpose. Your habits align with the future you say you want. Your daily actions align with the person you are becoming. That alignment creates peace. It creates power. It creates momentum. And once you have tasted that kind of life, it becomes difficult to go back to drifting. There is also something important to understand here. Living limitless does not mean doing everything. In fact, the limitless life often requires strong boundaries. It requires saying no to things that weaken your attention, dilute your energy, or pull you away from what matters most. It requires letting go of the need to please everyone. It requires refusing the pressure to live according to other people's expectations. It requires the courage to build a life that is deeply true, not merely socially approved. That takes strength, because the world is full of noise telling you what should matter. But a life of clarity and purpose demands that you listen more deeply. What do you truly value? What do you want your days to represent? What kind of person do you want to be when nobody is watching? What kind of future will require sacrifice, focus, and faithfulness from you? Those questions create separation. They pull you out of shallow living and into intentional living. And intentional living changes the emotional quality of life itself. When you know why you are doing what you are doing, ordinary days become more meaningful. Discipline becomes easier to respect. Hard seasons become easier to endure. Slow progress becomes easier to trust. Why? Because you are no longer living only for immediate comfort. You are living from a bigger vision. That is one of the secrets of the limitless life. It is future-aware, but present-faithful. It sees beyond today, but it still honors today. It dreams big, but it also acts small and wisely. It believes in greater things, but it understands that greater things are usually built through repeated daily obedience to what matters. This is how the future is designed, not by wishing harder, but by living differently. If you want a future of strength, build stronger habits now. If you want a future of peace, practice wiser boundaries now. If you want a future of impact, create more value now. If you want a future of confidence, keep promises to yourself now. If you want a future of clarity, remove distraction now. If you want a future of purpose, stop delaying the work that matters now. The future is listening to what you do with today, and every intentional action sends it a message. This is why your life must stop being led only by emotion. Some days you will feel inspired, some days you will not. Some days the vision will feel vivid, some days it will feel distant. Some days you will feel strong. Some days you will feel uncertain. But intentional people do not hand the steering wheel to every changing emotion. They come back to clarity. They come back to values. They come back to purpose. They come back to the next right action. That is real maturity. That is real leadership. And that is what this whole journey has been preparing you for. To become a person who does not just consume inspiration, but embodies it. To become a person who does not just admire discipline, but practices it. To become a person who does not just talk about change, but lives it. To become a person who designs a future with courage and patience. Because you were not made to live a small, distracted, half-awake life. You were not made to spend your years reacting to everything and creating nothing meaningful. You were not made to keep shrinking to fit your doubts. You were not made to let fear become the architect of your future. There is more available to you than that. There is a life of greater focus, greater presence, greater courage, greater integrity, greater purpose, greater contribution. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to grow, willing to change, willing to act, willing to design. And that willingness is enough to begin. As this chapter closes, let this truth settle deeply into your heart. A limitless life is not found. It is built. It is built when you decide that confusion will no longer lead you. It is built when you decide that your time will no longer be wasted so carelessly. It is built when you decide that your gifts deserve development. It is built when you decide that your future deserves intention. It is built when you stop waiting to become someone powerful and start practicing the habits, thoughts, and actions of that person now. This is your invitation to live with clearer vision, to move with stronger purpose, to act with deeper intention, to build a life that reflects not your fears, but your highest values. There will still be hard days. There will still be setbacks. There will still be moments when the road feels uncertain, but uncertainty does not cancel purpose. Difficulty does not cancel vision. Delay does not cancel destiny. Keep building. Build the disciplined mind. Build the healthy routines. Build the focused days. Build the meaningful relationships. Build the courageous decisions. Build the life that future you will thank you for. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You stop seeing yourself as someone trapped by circumstances, and you begin seeing yourself as someone equipped to shape them. You stop living as a passenger, and you become a builder. You stop drifting through time, and you begin directing it towards something worthy. That is the limitless life, a life driven by clarity, a life anchored in purpose, a life strengthened by intentional action. A life that refuses to stay small simply because small is familiar. So step forward now with vision. Step forward with responsibility. Step forward with courage. Step forward with the quiet confidence that your life can become something deeply meaningful when it is lived on purpose. Because the future is not waiting to be guessed. It is waiting to be designed. And from this moment on, that design is in your hands.